Hey, everybody, welcome back to Health Confidential. Today is going to be the most important podcast that you will see on my show. And the reason for that is because I have the most important person that has taught me so much about autonomy, about freedom, about everything regarding the laws that are hidden from us. But yet, he teaches that if you go through the laws in the way that he actually teaches in his course that he will speak about, you will get to see how much freedom you actually have and how many rights you actually have, regardless of where you are. So, my guest today is none other than Brandon Joe Williams. I guarantee you very soon you're going to see him on Joe Rogan. I'm willing to bet
I'm
everything I
hoping.
own. Oh, no, you will. So,
Thank you.
Brandon grew up on a farm in Indiana.
Yep.
And as a kid, he was obsessed with Ren and Stimpy, as well as Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. It's actually hard to believe that you were all into that, knowing how much you know about law. Like, I always thought you'd be like the most serious person alive. Huge fan
Oh
of
no.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. In fact, you named your first dog, which was a golden retriever, Casey, after the hockey player from TMNT. So I remember
Yep.
the good old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yep.
What I love about you, Brandon, is the fact that Dan Pena is one of the people that has impacted you the most. I love that guy with everything I am.
Yeah,
I
he's phenomenal. He's absolutely phenomenal. I did nothing but listen to him for probably almost 3 years.
Mhm.
We're talking 1 to 5 hours a day. I think if I listen to him for
Wow.
5 hours, I get a little bit fatigued. But yeah, I mean, he has, if you look on his website, he has all the videos from all of his seminars dating back to I think like 2007 or 2008, 2009. I haven't even looked at his website for a couple of years. So for all I know, he could have added even more. But if you watch all those seminar videos nonstop, back to back to back to back, there's enough content there to last you years. Even if you're watching hours and hours per day, it's still going to take you like a year and a half to get through all of his content.
Wow. Have you been to his castle?
No, no, I have
Oh,
not.
I'm surprised. I'm
Yeah.
surprised. I would have thought you would have, knowing how
It
much you
it's the
admire him.
scheduling, you have to book it like a year and a half in advance, and then it's just not functional for what I'm doing at all to schedule out that far.
I would have loved to see you two in person because I've seen some of his stuff on YouTube and the way he talked and how tough he was on those guys. I'm like, you have to be really tough to withstand him and his teachings.
Yeah,
He's the man.
he's the
Um,
best.
I also know that you know Zan Perion. You know him
Yes.
personally, and he dramatically changed your life through his book, The Alabaster Girl.
Yeah, and then I was also a member of the Amirati, which is
Mhm.
sort of like the upper level of the Ars Amirata. And I did the Essentials, which is a 90-day program with a guy named, I think, Lee Simmons was his name. And then once you finish the Essentials, there's a mastery program that you can do, but you have to basically be invited by Zan. He interviews you himself.
Oh, wow.
At that time, he was the one who was running the mastery program because it was a brand new program. And we got on the Zoom. We talked for a little bit, and then he's like, "Yeah, I'd love to have you there." So I did the mastery program with Zan. That was probably back in 2021, I want to say. I did the
Hmm.
mastery program. I think I did Essentials in 2020 and then Mastery in 21, I believe.
And the quote that you said, your favorite quote that you ever read in your entire life, comes from his book, The Alabaster Girl. Is that still the case?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I love it because it's about seduction. Seduction leads the holy crusade against the creeping compromise of mediocrity because seduction is honest. How cool is that? Seduction is honest. That's very true.
Yeah.
And your favorite poem in the world is by Pablo Neruda. Is that still the case?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, you also have a podcast that used to be called The Power of Curiosity, and you now named it the Burning Dumpster Fire podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, I
That was
renamed it for the new brand. That was the old name before this brand, and then now we have the new name for this brand. So yeah.
okay. And when do you have time to play guitar, drums, sing, and write books? I mean, I'm going to talk about the book that you wrote because I love it, but when do you have time to do that? Because you teach the 2.0 now and you spent so much time on the first edition of it.
Well, I do a lot of writing now, but it's not books that, per se. I mean, my I do a lot of writing on my websites. I do a lot of writing on social media. I do a lot of writing for litigation
Hmm.
briefs, and and stuff like that. I mean, gosh, I have several single filings, into some of these cases where 15, 20, 25, 35 pages. So, a few of those and boom, you've got the size of a book right there. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I still write a lot, but it's not
Mhm.
necessarily books, and I don't honestly play the guitar much anymore. I have one here, but I just don't touch it very often. And
And do you still have the 2009 Shelby GT 500?
oh yeah,
Okay. So I have my motorcycle license, so it really spoke to me. I mean, I drive manual as well. I mean, of course, you know that they've eliminated a lot of the manual cars. It's very hard to come by one of those.
yeah,
And if you do, you're one of the lucky few.
yep, that's true.
Uh, and I think you said that motorcycles are quite possibly the only thing on this planet better than women.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, why is that?
They're just very special.
Exhilarating. They
Very,
are.
very special. I have a 2023 Triumph Speed Triple 1200 RS. So it's like 200 horsepower between your legs. It's pretty
Oof,
fun.
with a full exhaust, right? I think
Well,
it's
yeah,
downhill.
well, it's an aftermarket exhaust and then I tuned it. So it's all the exhaust was taken off. 26 pounds of worthless metal was removed from my motorcycle. Yeah.
Oh, I've been to the track with, I mean, I've gone down too, but I do recognize the power that you have, you know, when you're on one of those two-wheelers. And it is, like you said, I mean, I wouldn't say that better than women because I'm a woman, but still, you know,
It's the only thing I enjoy more than the feminine spirit.
is it the exhilaration of the speed?
Uh, I don't know. I don't know what it is. If I had to really describe it, I don't know. It could be, there's a lot of things. I mean, first off, motorcycles remind you, what it's like to be alive. And they sort of re-center you in terms of your appreciation for life and appreciation for what you do have. Because on a motorcycle, you could be, almost cut off and your life flashes before your eyes. And then you go, you get home and you're like, holy shit, actually my life isn't so bad, like I thought it was. It's a hell of a resetter. Also, it represents true freedom. Out here in California, motorcyclists do literally whatever the fuck they want. They're going 150 miles an hour in between the cars and no one does anything. The cops don't do anything. No one does anything. Motorcycles are sort of like the most. I mean, I know guns and flags and barbecues and trucks are what people think of when they think of America, but I actually think motorcycles are a better representation of what America really is in its most basic essence.
Really?
Yeah, like power and technical proficiency and respect and freedom. To me, it does a better job of representing what this country is than barbecues and trucks and guns. I mean, guns maybe, but I think motorcycles are even better than guns in terms of how they represent the country, in my opinion. But anyways,
So true. And I know that for you, femininity is the greatest art of God.
yeah,
Those are your words that I got from your
yeah.
website. That's incredible because very few men. It shows that you've actually been with. You took that master course that you were talking about.
Oh, that's just barely skinning the surface. I actually went on like an 18-year discovery to try to figure all that out and try to understand my relationship with women and sexuality and what does it mean to be a man. And it was like a 18 years journey. It wasn't anything that happened just from one course. I think Zamparian's work is what has impacted me by far the most, and I would say 75% of all the, maybe 75% of all of the changes and evolutions that I've had on that subject were from Zan's work. But I mean, I've probably spent, I don't even know how many tens of thousands of dollars on men's retreats and fraternal retreats and dating relationship coaches and you name it. So it wasn't something that happened overnight at all.
That's so incredible because a lot of men don't even skim the surface of finding themselves, much less to try to understand the dance between the masculine and the feminine. So we
Yeah.
love men like you, just for
Thank
the
you.
record.
I know.
Let's talk a little bit about your book. Don't be a slave to your clients, break your chains, and regain your sanity. So, why did you write that? Brandon?
I was working in a dental office, so I was building dental offices for many years. I met this. Um, I used to live in New York City, and I was trying to break my fear of women. And so I decided that what I would do is I would just stop women on the streets and just hit on them and kiss their hand and spin them around like ballerinas
Oh,
and get their phone numbers. And I used to do that to probably like, 30 to 60 women a day. And one of the women that I did it to was this Cantonese girl who was a dentist, and we ended up dating, and then we ended up uh, I ended up working in her dental office, and yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyway, so fast forward, I came back to LA after that relationship fell apart, and started working for a dentist here who specialized in a really unique technology that was really cool. And I was working for him for a couple of years, and I was just kind of studying a lot of the sales gurus, like Grant Cardone and a lot of Grant Cardone really, but I mean other people too. A lot of salesy type books and stuff like that. And then I came across a guy named Dan S. Kennedy, who is actually the pre-runner for Russell Brunson, the creator of ClickFunnels. He actually ended up buying out Mr. Kennedy's entire platform, and they actually merged together. So when you see a lot of the Russell Brunson stuff nowadays, you'll see him with Dan S. Kennedy. Dan S. Kennedy was the Russell Brunson of the 80s and 90s.
ah,
When you actually had to travel and you actually had to do things through magazines and in-person events rather than all through the internet. And basically, I found his information and I started reading all of his books, and then I started reading all the books that he recommends. For example, the greatest sales book I've ever read in my life is the only sales book I've ever read by a woman, which is Uncensored Sales Strategies by Sydney Biddle Barros, which you can't even find anymore. And I think that is an absolute travesty on the entire human race. You have to get it used. It's not in print anymore. Greatest sales book I've ever read in my life. In fact, I basically threw out every single other sales book I ever owned after I read that one. And so I decided to kind of develop my own entirely new way of selling and marketing. And what I came up with was that you create a free course structure where you just educate the individual and everything they need to know about whatever it is that you do, essentially, right?
mhm.
And then what you do is you have advertising that does nothing more than just gives away the free course. And then you don't really let anyone in the door, and you don't really even talk to anyone or do much of anything with anyone until after they've completed the course. And the course does all of the lifting and the selling for you. And you make the course really, really valuable. It isn't a sales pitch. It's actually like a really, really valuable, important, beautiful, life-changing. And you say life-changing, like for example, I had a landscaping trust that I was running up until recently. I stepped down as a trustee because of all this stuff was getting too big. But we had a free landscaping education course, and it went over like fencing and how do you build a fence, and what do you need to know when you're building a fence, and how do you make a fence straight. Plants, different types of plants, especially here in Southern California. What do they do? What do they need? How much maintenance? Flagstone. We had a video on flagstone. I think we had like 16 or 18 different videos that would educate the person on the various things and how much they may cost and how their functionality is and how long they last and different types of flagstone and gravel, what kinds of gravel, why would you want this one over this one? And we have one on irrigation and grading to make sure that whenever there's any like rain, we have to make sure the rain goes in a certain direction. How does that work, and how do you grade a yard in order to get it to flow into a certain area? What can happen to the house? The foundation can get destroyed if there's a lot of water that gets stuck against the foundation of the house, etc. So it's all this information that they need to know if they're going to be doing, then they could go out there, maybe not quite, but they could damn near go out there and do the whole project themselves by the time they're done watching our courses, right? So the whole point of that is to give them peace of mind and to give them value and to give them an education. And then the other side of that, you get clients that are really, really happy to be there. They're very, very happy to pay. The price resistance is very low, so you charge a premium. Obviously, it's for very, very high quality, high end services that requires. Because when you educate the client, the reason why most people don't want to educate the client is because an educated client is a keen client. and a keen client is going to put you to a higher expectation. So most people feel like they're putting a gun in their mouth when they educate the client. Whereas for us, it was the polar opposite. It was, we're going to be the best, and we want the client to know what's going on as it's happening, but we are going to charge an astronomical fee to have this work, right? So that's how we were able to get massive. I was able to figure out this whole system, and the book covers like, how do you handle people over the phones? How do you build the free course? How do the flow lines work going into the free course, coming out of the free course? The basic philosophies of supply and demand. There's a lot of information in that book that covers basically this whole kind of system that I essentially developed for this dental office. And then I subsequently used in the landscaping trust as well as the what I'm doing now. So it's the same functionality. And
Yeah, I love the fact because one of the things that you have in the book is about setting boundaries.
yeah,
And I struggled with that even in my business, right? Because you, in the book, you advocate for obviously the boundaries in terms of time, scope of work, availability, like how available are you to your clients and when, and how do you structure your boundaries? How to attract the ideal ones. I
yeah.
love it. So I really wanted to touch on that because I want people to understand how much value there is in that book
Thank you.
and also in how much, like how generous you are. So tell us a little bit about the course. So I know, and I heard you speak about this, that you kind of took inspiration from the way that Dan Pena does it. So you put together your course. So the first, you're now on obviously the second iteration 2.0, and you give it away for free. It's little, and you spent exorbitant amounts of money to actually bring the first version of it to people.
Yeah, so the 2.0 course is the 1.0 course basically was released on July 2nd of 2022. And what it
Mm-hmm.
was is I had been studying like a madman everything I get my hands on, mainly books, because you can't find a lot of uh, information on the internet that isn't just absolutely crazed. It's so difficult to read. It's written by people who are very upset. So it can be very hard to read things from people who are really upset, right? And I understand why they're upset. I'm not even really complaining. It just is what it just was what it was. I couldn't find a lot of information on what I do anywhere. So I started buying books off of Amazon, and I was able to find, I think 26 of them or something like that. And I read all of them. I had all of them read by, I think, between September of 2021 and maybe March or April of 2022. I think I had read most of them or all of them. And I released the first version of my website on March 14th of 2022, which was text only. There was only a couple pages on there. There wasn't a whole lot on there. And then obviously between March and July of 2022, I was adding things and clarifying things and changing things literally every day, almost it seemed like. And then people kept asking me for some kind of an audio visual presentation. Please God, just reading text. We don't want to read text. And I didn't do it. I didn't do it for a long time because I thought to myself, well, if you're not willing to read text, you're not going to have any success with any of this anyways. You might as well just not even bother trying or starting with this, right? Um, but then finally, for whatever reason, I decided I'd finally do it. So I started shooting the 1.0 course in probably like April, like end of April. And then it was about 5 weeks of nonstop research and videos and outlines and everything else. And then I released the 1.0 course on July 2nd of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously was doing a lot of work and a lot of research between then and now. And then finally the 1.0 course videos got so horrible for me to watch. It was so cringy and just so awful and just so all over the place and just so like, oh God, what, that I finally decided to create a much more linear, much more streamlined, more action-based show and tell focused version of the course that had all of the research and discoveries that had occurred over the past couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the 2.0, and that was just released this year on August 18th, 2024.
Yeah.
And
So I
that
just,
has been a crazy ride. I mean, my all my traffic is up 3 to 5x on everything.
Yep.
And the amount of activity, the amount of action that people are taking since 2.0 was released is just unbelievable. I would say I can't even 30, 40, 50, 60 times what it was before. I can't even keep up with all of it, honestly. So to me, that is the ultimate test. That is the ultimate test does what you're teaching result in other people taking action? And 1.0, we had maybe we had some action. It wasn't that there was no action, but 2.0 is literally a category 5 hurricane of action. It's unbelievable. So I'm very proud of uh, my audience and just kind of everything that's happening with that. And I think it's very cool. So
Yes, it is. And it's free.
yeah.
That's insanely generous of you. I don't think that people can, and it's ineffable to say because the word free itself does not kind of encapsulate just how much information you give and what it can actually mean and how, and the caliber of how it can change somebody's life. I really want people to understand that. So tell us a little bit about the course. What do you teach in this?
Well, let's see. Are you doing the 2.0 course?
Yep, I just
What,
started it.
oh,
Yep.
you just start. Which videos have you seen so far?
Just the first one.
You saw the whole
We
thing all the way through?
Yes, and you just started describing basically the difference between a person, people. You have the definitions, very in depth.
Yeah. So basically what the course is it's four different sections. It's 26 videos. It's about 36 hours of videos total.
Mm-hmm.
And the first section is we're going into nationality, citizenship, and taxation. The second section is getting into trusts and the structures, corporate structure, trust structure, estate structure, how to build your own trusts, how to build your own estates, bank accounts. The third section is all about driving and how driving is actually a commercial term. The definition of the word driving, the previous legal definition of the word driver used to be the word chauffeur, and then they changed chauffeur to driver. And if you look in Title 49, which is the transportation title of the United States Code, Section 390.5T, you will find the definition of the word driver, and I believe I have it memorized. It's any person who operates any commercial motor vehicle. And you start going down the rabbit hole of what is commercial, and what is a motor vehicle. Commercial means transporting persons, property, or cargo for some sort of fee, rate, charge, or other consideration on the highways. Specifically, it has to be on the highway. It has to be for some sort of fee, rate, charge, or other consideration, and it has to be transporting persons, property, or cargo. You have to have all three of those elements for it to be considered a commercial motor vehicle, right? So a driver is somebody who operates any commercial motor vehicle. A commercial motor vehicle is something that is actively right now as we speak transporting persons, property, or cargo for some sort of fee, rate, charge, or other consideration on the highway. So if you are transporting a person or property or cargo for some sort of fee, rate, charge, or other consideration, and you are not on the highway, it still would not be classified as a commercial motor vehicle. It would have to be done on the highway, right? And then you get into, well, what's the definition of a highway and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so what people don't realize is that whole kind of rabbit hole is very fascinating. And then we have the rabbit hole of a certificate of title. The legal definition of the word certificate means, evidence that something is someplace else or evidence that something occurred, right? But when it comes to a certificate of title, it's evidence that there's a title someplace else. And you start going down this rabbit hole where when you buy a brand new car, there's something called the MCO or MSO, which stands for a manufacturer's certificate or statement of origin, which looks very similar to a title. And what happens is that MCO or MSO has to be sent to the DMV, right? And then what happens is the DMV issues what's called a state or jurisdiction title. That's what they call it on the DMV or the AAMVA website. I forget which website, but if you look it up, state or jurisdiction title, you'll probably pop up on Google. And what happens is basically what you're doing is you're entering into a trust agreement with the state. So, for example, if I were to take my motorcycle, I have the original MCO for my motorcycle. If I wanted to get a certificate of title and register that vehicle, I would need to send the MCO into the DMV, and the DMV would, in exchange, give me a certificate of title. Now, what that means is this certificate of title is an abstract of the actual title, which you sent to us, and basically, you gave it up. You have to give up the actual title in order to get a certificate of title. Now, if you look on, let's say, for example, in California, if you look on the certificate of title, you'll see that your name is listed under a section called registered owner. Now, no one ever thought to go look up the legal definition of the term registered owner. If you look up the legal term registered owner, it means somebody who has a interest in the dividends or profit of some sort of activity. So what's happening is that when you give the MCO and you get a certificate of title, what's happening is you're actually entering into a commercial trust where the state of California becomes the trustee and you become the beneficiary, and you become a person who is now operating a commercial motor vehicle in commerce to transport persons, cargo, or property for some sort of fee rate charge or other consideration on the highways. And you're listed as the registered owner because you have the right to the dividend or profits of that activity. And by doing all of that, you actually give the state your vehicle. You don't own the vehicle anymore, which is why you have to get registration. You're basically paying rent for a government vehicle. It's now a government vehicle.
Wow.
And the police are a private security force that operates on behalf of the business called State of California, driving around, and they're actually policing their own property. And that's why they're able to write you a ticket.
Wow.
So you
Wow.
don't own your car. And when a police officer pulls you over, he's basically operating under a power of attorney on behalf of the person who does own that car, which is the person called State
State of
of California.
California.
You are driving a government vehicle. Everyone is driving a government vehicle,
Unbeknownst to them.
unbeknownst to them.
That's crazy.
So when the police officer pulls you over, he uses very, very specific terminology, and he's been trained to use it. You need a driver's license to operate a motor vehicle on the roadways. The word operate has a special legal definition in Title 49. The word motor vehicle has a special legal definition in Title 49. The word driver also has a special legal definition in Title 49. The officer is not aware that there are all these special definitions. And then he'll ask you, are you the registered owner for this motor vehicle? The term registered owner also has a special definition that she's not aware of. And they'll always use this exact same terminology. If you watch all the videos on YouTube and you watch videos of traffic situations, you'll notice they always use these terms: motor vehicle, operate, driver, state of California, and registered owner. You'll hear them. They always use those 5 terms. And what's funny is there's not a single police officer on the streets that understands any of those terms at all. In fact, the word operates, if I were to do a screen share right now and pull it up on the screen, it would take up the whole screen. None of it makes any sense. The word operates is actually by far the most confusing. I'm not even totally sure the definition of the word operates is even coherent. It's almost like I can show it to you. It's
Yes,
almost like
please.
a ranting and raving of like some lunatic in a padded cell. You have to. It says that you have to host disabled participating screen sharing. So you have to activate screen sharing for me.
Ah, let me see where I can do that.
Or I can just have you look it up and I can just show it to you on your screen.
No, no, I would like for you to do it because obviously you are the. I'm just trying to figure out where I could find the setting right now to make sure that you are the person that does the.
If you make me the host, I can give it back to you. That's usually the easiest and fastest way to do it.
Yeah, let me try to see where I can do that. I'm going under view. Mm. Host tools. Oh,
Next to the button, I've had shows derail for 40 minutes trying to do this. I just don't want to do that at all. If you go next to screen share, there's a little arrow. That arrow will give you an additional drop down thing. Typically in there you can find something. If not, then I'm just going to have you do it.
multiple participants can share simultaneously. That's the only one.
Okay, so
Answer.
I'll just have you do it. So 49 CFR 390.5T. I can go in here and I can find the word driver, and I can send you a link to it through the chat on the Zoom. That'll probably be the easiest, right? So I'll send it to you right now. Opening up the chat. Let's see, where's the chat? There it is. There you go.
Okay. Here we go. Let me just share my screen. Oh, change host. Okay, there you go. I just made you the host.
Oh, there we go. I'll show you guys.
Perfect. You can do your thing now.
Here is the definition of the word operates. Now, what people need to understand before we get into this definition is, in law, the person who's making the claim is the one who has to prove the claim. You're innocent until proven guilty. Everyone is fairly aware of that. It's actually, in my opinion, the spinal cord of all international law. It's actually huge. It's actually one of the most important aspects of everything. And once we lose that, I feel that the entire civilization will literally burn, and we'll be killing each other in the streets. Once we lose that, I think it's the one linchpin between a civilized and an uncivilized society. Anyways, so if the police officer or anybody else decides they want to charge you, let's say, for example, for speeding, and you say to yourself, okay, in order for me to be speeding, it would need to be obvious or agreed upon that I was operating a motor vehicle, correct? Obviously, yes, or driving, right? So the thing is that when you read this, it's not going to make any sense. But the thing is that you don't necessarily have to understand this definition. Because the thing is that if the officer says you were operating a motor vehicle, he's the one who has to prove that. So the thing is that I don't even try to understand stuff like this. It's just, I don't think you even can. I'm not even sure. I mean, I guess if I really wanted to spend tons of time to try to understand this, I probably could. It's not worth my time. But if the officer says that you're operating a motor vehicle, okay, now the officer has to prove that, right? Now, the thing is you would say, okay, here's the definition of the word operate. No motor carrier or intermodal equipment provider shall require or permit any person to operate, nor shall any person operate any motor vehicle or intermodal equipment declared and marked out of service until all repairs required by the out of service notice have been satisfactorily completed. The term operate, as used in this section, shall include towing the vehicle or intermodal equipment, except that vehicles or intermodal equipment marked out of service may be towed away by means of a vehicle using a crane or hoist. A vehicle combination consisting of an emergency towing vehicle and an out of service vehicle shall not be operated unless such combination meets the performance requirements of the subchapter, except for those conditions noted on the driver vehicle examination report.
Wow.
Now you say, what the fuck does all that mean? I say it doesn't matter, because the thing is the officer is not going to be able to figure this out. Okay. So if you can't prove that I was operating a motor vehicle, then the later charge, of which that would need to be established prior, obviously, would be that I was going above a legal speed limit. If I wasn't operating a motor vehicle or driving a motor vehicle, then how could I be above the speed limit? There would have to be this assumption of driving or operating a motor vehicle that no one ever fights against, because they assume the definitions of words, terms, and phrases. And that is the death In contract law and in litigation, if I say he was operating a motor vehicle, and you say yes, Your Honor, I was, none of these definitions matter anymore. You waived your Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, and you've basically just agreed about the statement. Once you've agreed about the statement becomes basically law because contracts rule the statutory world. If someone said that, you know, you're a man and you're actually a woman, and you say, yeah, I agree, I'm a man, in contract law, that's basically what becomes the truth in law. It's basically whatever it is that's essentially agreed upon or contractually agreed upon, right? So the problem is that with every single thing that a police officer says is very, very, very easy to fight against. So you have the word operate, very easy to fight against the word operate. You have the term driver, which is here on the screen, 49 CFR, which stands for Code of Federal Regulations. 49 CFR 390.5T, driver means any person who operates any commercial motor vehicle. And then you have another section here, 18 USC 31. We have the definition of the term motor vehicle. The term motor vehicle means every description of carriage or other contrivance propelled or drawn by mechanical power and used for commercial purposes on the highways in the transportation of passengers and property or cargo. And then you see here, used for commercial purposes is also another term. We can scroll down to subsection 10 and see that one. The term used for commercial purposes means the carriage of persons or property for any fare, fee, rate, charge, or other consideration, or directly or indirectly in connection with any business or other undertaking intended for profit. And then we'll go over to the California DMV website, and we're going to look up the definition of the term automobile. Definition of the term automobile is a passenger vehicle that does not transport persons for hire. Right underneath that definition, we have a commercial vehicle is a vehicle which is used or maintained for the transportation of persons for hire, compensation, or profit, or designed, used, or maintained primarily for the transportation of property, which is similar to what we see in A10 over here at 18 USC 31. Not quite as verbose, right? But you can see it's all of the same cloth. And this is the issue. The issue is you've donated your vehicle to a business. So if we go to my website, williamsandwilliamslawfirm.com, and we go to state of California, and we go down here, we can see that state of California is listed on Dun and Bradstreet as a business, right? Where is that? Right here. So what's happening is that there's a business called State of California listed on Dun and Bradstreet, right, as a business.
So
And
the
what's
state
happening
is a
is,
business.
yeah, and you are essentially donating your automobile to turn it into a commercial vehicle, which is owned by a business called State of California, which is essentially policed. The property of State of California is policed by a private security force called the police. That's why you have the sheriff and you have the police. If you go to unincorporated counties in the United States of America, they don't have a police station a lot of the time. They only have a sheriff's office. The reason why is because the police is the arm of the business called State of California. The sheriff is the arm of the actual landmass called California.
Wow. Okay. So what happens if you're traveling, not on a highway, in a car? Because I know that there are definitions between an automobile and a vehicle. So you're going to, I guess that legality around those terms probably plays a role. But what if you're driving from your mother's house to your cousin's house in your own vehicle, car slash automobile, and you're just going there for pleasure? You're just paying a visit
Well,
and you get pulled over.
a lot of people use the driving versus traveling thing. I think that's very stupid. Obviously, that pisses off the cops. It's not very effective, even though it may or may not be true. I don't really care. I go a completely different route. I just say I'm not driving. What I'm doing, I don't know. I've never necessarily seen, you have the right to travel stuff, and you do have that, and the Supreme Court has already ruled on that. But the thing is that let's say, for example, you have a box in the back seat,
Mm-hmm.
and let's say, for example, it's Wednesday, and then the following day on Thursday, you were paid to transport that box from point A to point B, but you aren't currently and actively transporting that box. That box is just sitting there because tomorrow, which is Thursday, at 3 o'clock, you've already got it on your schedule. That's when you're going to begin transporting that box from point A to point B for compensation. Now, let's say you're going to be using the highway. Now, let's say you started your commercial journey at 4 p.m. You were not on the highway until 4:15. You got off the highway at 4:45, and then you arrived at your destination at 5 p.m. Technically speaking, you were only driving for 30 minutes.
Okay. So you're driving for 30 minutes and you get pulled over.
So now let's say you get pulled over during that time period of 30 minutes.
Yes.
Now you have the Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment says that you have a right against self-incrimination, the right to be silent. If you tell the officer, "Oh yes, officer, I'm transporting this box for some sort of fee, rate, charge, or other consideration actively right now." Okay. You just waived your Fifth Amendment right and you just incriminated yourself to driving. Now, at that point, you would need to present a driver's license and all the good stuff, right? Now, let's say, for example, you said, with all due respect, officer, I have a Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. I will not be incriminating myself or giving any information away or any evidence that could infer that I am transporting anything or anyone inside of what you would consider this to be a motor vehicle. I consider it to be an automobile for any sort of fee, rate, charge, or other consideration. Now, at that point, the officer would have to prove that you are actively transporting that box that's in the back seat for some sort of fee, rate, charge, or other consideration. If he cannot, he can't press charges. I mean, he can press all the charges he wants. They're not going to go anywhere. Because if he presses charges and says that you're driving and says that you're in a motor vehicle, the first thing I would bring up in a court of law is what evidence do you have that I was transporting persons, property, or cargo for some sort of fee, rate, charge, or other consideration, or on behalf of a business, or on behalf of some kind of activity being undertaken for profit, as per the definition. Now, the officer is the one who made the claim. The officer is the one who will now need to prove that claim. Now, I don't see any hope in hell unless a fucking receipt or something flew out the window while you were there, because he didn't have a search warrant. He can't go through your vehicle either. So the only way he'd be able to pull it off is, let's say, like there was a receipt on your dashboard or something, and that the wind picked it up and it flew out the window and hit the ground. He picks it up off the ground and says, "This is a receipt that says that," or "This is a purchase order that says between the hours of 3 and 4 p.m., you're transporting a box." And then he'd look in the back seat and he'd say, "Which looks exactly like that box." Because then let's say he does have a receipt and it says, transport a grill, but the box in the back seat is small. My response to that would be, "How do you know that's a grill, officer?" "Oh, well, open it up and show me." You don't have a search warrant. I'm not going to let you search my vehicle go get a search warrant, right? Now, if he gets a search warrant and he opens the box and it's the grill, and the grill is the same grill located on the receipt, and the receipt was gained because it flew out of your window and he didn't reach into the vehicle, which would necessitate a search warrant, now he's got you. Do you see how difficult it is? It's fucking impossible. It is fucking impossible. I literally, it is fucking impossible. If you understand how the system really works, there's almost no chance that anyone in the entire country in an entire calendar year would be prosecuted for any traffic violations at all.
Wow.
It's physically impossible. I mean, maybe one or two, the person would be so fucking stupid that they'd have the receipt and it would fly out the window and they'd grab it. the number one way that everyone fucks this up is they think that they assume the definitions of the words. That's obviously you're dead man, right?
So you
Now above
incriminate
that,
yourself.
then you have the right to remain silent and the right against self-incrimination. So let's say you are transporting a box for some sort of fee, rate, charge, or other consideration, and you are pulled over, and you are on a highway, and you are actively transporting that box for some sort of fee, rate, charge, or other consideration in that moment. Okay, now you are driving. Now the officer does have jurisdiction. Now we actually are in a traffic stop. We weren't in a traffic stop prior to that. We were in a violation of your rights under color of law, which is found under 42 USC 1983. So before we established the fact that you were transporting that box for some sort of fee, rate, charge, or other consideration, with that traffic stop was actually a deprivation of your rights, right? Every
Wow.
person under color of any statute, ordinance, regulation, custom, or usage of any state or territory or the District of Columbia subjects or causes to be subjected any citizen of the United States or other person within the jurisdiction thereof to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured by the Constitution and laws shall be liable to the party injured in an action at law, suit in equity, or other proper proceeding for redress, except that in any action brought against a judicial officer, blah, blah, blah. So this is what people use when they sue the police. They use 42 USC 1983.
1983.
And then if you want to upgrade that, let's say there's two or more individuals operating together. Let's say there's two police officers pulling you over, or let's say there's one police officer and then he calls for backup and another officer
Conspiracy.
comes. Now we have a conspiracy charge.
Wow.
So the way that traffic violations actually work is if the officer can't prove that you were transporting property, persons, or cargo for some sort of fee, rate, charge, or other consideration, we don't have a traffic stop. We have 42 USC 1983, 1985 violation of your rights
My
under the
God.
color of law. So now what you're
That's
doing is now you can file
crazy.
a civil lawsuit saying that you were detained for 25 minutes. There was never any evidence supporting the fact that you were driving. There was never any evidence supporting the fact that you were in a motor vehicle. There was never any evidence supporting the fact that you were operating anything. And because the officer, who's a police officer, who's basically a private security force operating on behalf of the state, the problem is the reason why this gets a little hairy, though, is because you have you and your rights, and then you also have the fact that the vehicle that you think you own that you're cruising around in is actually owned by the state. So it gets more complicated because if the state wanted to be proper and correct and they wanted to fight against a 42 USC 1983 1985 claim, the easiest way for them to win would just be to say, we own that vehicle. It's not yours. So you don't have any rights, and we can pull it over whenever we want.
Can
And
they say that?
to some degree, that would be true. The problem with that is they'll never do that because the civilization would explode in a frenzy of anger and frustration, and they'd be pissed,
Oh,
right?
wow.
So they don't want people finding out about this information. So what's going to happen is a lot of times they'll just take the loss and they won't bring anything like that up.
Wow.
Because the thing is that there's more damage to be done by bringing that up in a court of law than there is to simply just pay out the lawsuit.
That's crazy. Okay, so in that vein, I wanted to ask, so is the government, or however you want to name it, because there's so many rabbit holes, just one thing is like a run-on sentence that you cannot even remember where you started by the time you get to the end of that sentence that's like 15 lines long. Is the government allowed to do this? Is it legal for them to mind fuck you in this way to make you
Yes,
believe that you're committing a crime when in fact you really aren't?
it's
And they
all
get,
based on contracts law. It's all contracts. You sent in the MCO or MSO of your own volition, and you can go to the DMV and
oh,
turn in your driver's license right now. I'll tell you, when I went in and turned in my driver's license, I was in and out of the fucking DMV in probably 10 minutes.
oh. And they have the police enforcing things that are not even legal. Like, are they allowed to do that legally?
If you have a certificate of title and you don't have an MSO and you have a driver's license, yes. If you're transporting persons, cargo, or property for any fee, rate, charge, or other consideration on the highways, yes.
But they never told you that you have can like are you ever made aware that hey, listen, if you take this driver's license, it means this, but if you don't take it, it means this, and you don't have to give us this, and we don't need to. And by the way, we're operating under contract law. They never tell anybody that. So
They don't even show you the contract when you sign up for a driver's license.
so they trick you.
It's complicated, and the reason why is because the almost no one knows how any of this really works. Okay, so the way that a driver's license works, okay, comes from uh 8 USC 1101 subsection A23. Okay,
Oh my God.
so we have two different states. We have the business called State of California, which we're not going to get into a long rabbit hole on that, but that business is located in the District of Columbia. Okay. And then
Yes.
we have California, which is the actual landmass. The sheriff runs California.
God.
The police run State of California, which is actually literally just it's only the District of Columbia, right? Now, the way that you get into these places and the way that you contract with these places is through the term naturalization. Naturalization means the conferring of nationality of a state upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever. You saw this in video number 1 of the 2.0 course.
Yes, which I love because it means I could come to the United States and confer that upon myself, and here I am.
So when you confer the nationality of state of California upon yourself after birth by any means whatsoever, you are actually moving yourself on paper into the District of Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
When you say, I confer the nationality of the unincorporated original de jure, which is a term de jure by law, California, which shall not be confused with the business called State of California, which is located in the District of Columbia. When you say a sentence like that, now what's happening is you are not naturalizing into State of California. You are naturalizing into California. And if you look, how many constitutions does California have? Some states like Texas have a whole bunch, like 5 or 6, but many of them only have 2. And you'll see here that it has 2 constitutions. This one from 1849 is for the de jure California. The one from May 7th, 1879, the government was incorporated in 1871. So what happened was they incorporated the government in 1871, which you can see at 28 USC 3002, subsection 15, definition A.
Oh my God.
United States means a federal corporation. And then if you go to,
I can't believe that. I asked ChatGPT, is the United States a corporation? It said, no, that's a conspiracy theory.
no, it's just right here.
That's crazy.
And then this is pretty interesting. So when you start going down the rabbit hole of a Federal Reserve note, which is what you think is money in your pocket, it's not money at all, by the way. You actually realize that what a Federal Reserve note is, and you'll learn about this later in the 2.0 course, it's actually an unconditional promise to pay, right? So it's an unconditional promise to pay between a creditor and a debtor, right? The creditor is Federal Reserve, and the debtor is the federal corporation called United States, right? Now, this is really fascinating. UCC 9-307, it tells you where is the location of the debtor associated with that debt. Subsection H tells you the United States is located in the District of Columbia. So I always tell people, I say, if United States is located in the District of Columbia, why is it such a big stretch to think that State of California isn't located in the District of Columbia? And you also have 4 USC 72.
Public offices, yes.
All offices attached to the seat of government shall be exercised in the District of Columbia and not elsewhere except as otherwise expressly provided by law, right?
Is this what you're sharing with us? Is this online for everybody to see? Or is this you have access to it because you're a lawyer?
No, this is just literally Google.
Jesus. So everybody can go down these rabbit holes and be able to exercise their rights and say, whoa, no, what you're saying is actually incorrect. State of
Yeah, and in my
California.
course, later in the course, I'll teach you how to use Pacer. Pacer is here. I'll teach you how to create an account. I'll teach you how to use it, search for a case. You can actually look up any case you want, and I'll teach you how to look up the docket, and you can actually do all your own case research to build out your cases.
That's amazing.
That's in section 4 of the 2.0 course. Okay.
Okay. So everybody, that's what, hey, listen, you see how much stuff is in that course and he gives it away for free. I was not kidding when I said that he is so generous. Okay. So Brandon, let me move over
Well,
to,
well, hold on. Let me finish this,
okay.
if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
So when you sign up for a driver's license, you're attesting under penalty of perjury that you are a resident of state of California. State of California is a business that has what's called the CVC, the California Vehicle Code.
My God.
So what's happening is that when you naturalize into state of California, you literally, that's what's so crazy about these laws, is that you weren't a resident of state of California until you got a driver's license saying that you were a resident of state of California.
What about a
When,
birth certificate?
birth certificate is the same thing. Your mother naturalized you on the birth certificate into a business called state of California.
Oh, no.
Birth certificate is a naturalization document.
Okay.
That's why if you look at citizenship laws, they always say by birth or by naturalization, but really it's the same thing. Birth is naturalization because your
Okay.
mother confers the nationality of the state called state of California upon you after your birth by any means whatsoever. If you look at your mother's name on the birth certificate, mine, for example, and many other ones, not all of them, your mother is actually listed as an informant.
Oh my
Informant.
God.
Yeah. You can, I mean, it's like not a conspiracy. You can look up, I mean,
Jesus.
we could probably look it up right now. I mean, California certificate of live birth. And then if we were to look at the images, I bet you we could probably just find one that says right on it, informant. It's not really all that crazy. If we zoom in on this, let's see. Oh, we're getting some kind of a problem here. Let's see. It showed us and now it doesn't. Interesting. Anyways, if you look up certificates of live birth and you look up pictures, you'll see
That the mother is an informant.
that the mother is listed as an informant.
So
Yeah.
what does that mean? In truth, like in layman's terms, what does it mean? Informant of what towards whom?
Legal definition of an informant.
Someone who provides information to law enforcement or an intelligence agency about criminal activity. Person
You
who
can go
works secretly
through.
for the government. That's what I was thinking. A person who works secretly for the government.
Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a person who provides naturalization information because your mother is naturalizing you into the business.
And giving that information to the government.
Yeah.
Wow. Does that apply anywhere on like in all countries
I
or
would
just
imagine, yeah, most everything I teach, it seems like, I don't get into other countries really. But it seems like whenever anybody shows me anything, it always seems to be the exact same overall system that we have here. It's the same thing, just duplicated again and again and again.
I love that it said that the Constitution there was updated 543 times, I think it said. That's crazy.
That's only the later one, the statutory one. The
The
original one is still original, and actually, you can still use the original one in court as well.
oh,
Like
they
for
would take
example, when I go into court, there's two persons. There's the ens legis, which is the corporation or estate that was created when my birth certificate was processed when I was born, and then there's me, right? So I naturalize me into California. That would be under the 1849 Constitution, and then the corporate fiction that was created that they typically talk to when they're sending you bills and letters. That one would be under the 1879 Constitution. So you have two different persons in two different places that both have two different constitutions, and that's actually correct. That's actually exactly how the country is structured. And if you look at 26 USC 7701 subsection A1, we have the definition of the word person, which is usually pretty shocking for people. Every
Yeah.
single section of law has a different definition of the word person, but they're pretty much all the same. Some of them are really long and complicated, and some of them are really short. The shortest one I've ever seen comes from Title 8. If you look at the Title 8 definition of a person, yeah, it's an individual or an organization.
Partnership, association, company, or other incorporated body of individuals or corporation or body politic.
Yeah, but you have 8 USC 1101. This is the one I was referring to. If you go here, this
yeah.
one.
The term person means an individual or an organization.
But I like the tax code one. I think the tax code one is the one that it gives you a bunch of additional information without going on and on and on forever and just being weird and dumb. So the term person shall be construed to mean and include an individual, a trust, estate, partnership, association, company, or corporation, right? And if you go into 8 USC 1101, we have the definition of the word person in Title 8, which means an individual or an organization. Now, it's interesting because the word organization is here too. The Title 8 definition of what's included is quite a bit more verbose. The term organization means, but is not limited to, an organization, corporation, company, partnership, association, trust, foundation, or fund, and includes a group of persons, whether or not incorporated, permanently or temporarily associated together with joint action on any subject or subjects. Technically speaking, you and I right now have an organization as per the Title 8 definition of an organization. So,
Jeez.
but you and I wouldn't be considered a person if we were talking about a tax situation, because Title 26 defines a person more like this. But if we were talking about a Title 8 situation, which is involving aliens and nationality, you and I right now on this show would technically have an organization, which is a completely different term.
Okay, so then so common law, which is what you've been talking about, does this all encompass these definitions in the same way as long as you're operating under common law? And no matter what happens, if you go to court, you say, hey, person is defined as such, and they cannot change it. But if you operate, let's say, under maritime law, it could have a completely different meaning altogether.
No, so the way that, as far as I can tell so far, this is mainly involving a new 2.0 type of litigation that we're doing now. The only way that any of these definitions even matter at all is because the definitions themselves were not originally contractually agreed upon. So what we're starting to do now, which is our new tester lawsuits, if you go to my most recent one, which is case number 8.
Is that the Amex one?
No, Small Business Administration, right? So if we go here, this is my my brand new SBA case. If we go all the way down to Exhibit A, which is the original. So a novation is basically a change in a contract, right? So you can, like when you're on Facebook and it says that if you continue to use Facebook, you agree to the new terms and conditions. That's called a novation, right? Now you can do a novation on them just as much as they can do a novation on you, right? So what I
Excellent.
did, so what I do now and what I teach and what you'll see at the very, very end of the 2.0 course of how to do all this is kind of like I'm showing you the very, very end. So I teach you what an novation is. I teach you the definitions. I teach you the various options, the statutes, the structures. And then at the very, very end, the very last video, second to last video is this case, the SBA case. And you can see everything you've learned in the entire course all put into one case, essentially. And it kind of like is the grand finale of the whole thing, right? So you can see here that what we're doing is we're actually doing a novation to the point where we're actually clarifying the definition of every single term and aspect of every single aspect. Definition of certificate, definition of live birth. This is the actual legal
I
definition.
love what that is. Live birth means the complete expulsion or extraction from its mother of a product of conception, irrespective of the duration of pregnancy, which, after such separation, breathes or shows any other evidence of life, such as beating of the heart, pulsation of the umbilical cord, or definite movement of voluntary muscles, whether or not the umbilical cord has been cut or the placenta is attached. I love
So
it.
my argument on this is basically, does the certificate of live birth represent my male body, or does it represent something like the placenta or umbilical cord, which was abandoned or given up by my mother as property to the hospital?
Mm.
That's, and basically the thing is that by placing that question forth, they would have to prove whatever, whatever aspect of it is that it is, right? And you could actually drag in the Department of Health and Human Services as a defendant if they wanted to question that particular point, and you would actually force, through what's called discovery, you would force the Department of Health and Human Services to prove what aspect of the definition of live birth is being represented by the birth certificate, and how can they prove that?
So if they cannot do that, if they cannot prove any of that, what does it mean? What
It
does,
means that I never should have been naturalized into the business called state of Indiana.
and if they cannot prove such a thing, then can you say, well, I was never naturalized because you cannot prove it. Therefore, I have the right now to say whether I am or not.
Yes to that, and then also that proves that you are not a U.S. citizen.
Uh, If you can just scroll back up, because I remember seeing how you had your name in capitals, and I really wanted to touch on this point because I've heard so much about this, and you had it right there. So it says Brandon Joe Williams, attorney in fact, and that's in lowercase letters with your names, the first letter of your name being capitalized, on behalf of, in caps, Brandon Joe Williams, and you have the registered sign on it. So what does that mean? Tell us, because a lot of people are asking. And I asked a lawyer here in Canada. I said, "Hey, why do you guys use my name in caps? I would like it to be in lowercase." And he said, "Oh, there's really no difference between the two. It's just how we write it." And I said, "Do banks write it for the same reason? Do governmental agencies write it for the same reason? I mean, why don't you just give it to me in the way that I want it, since it's my name, it's my property?" And he said, "There really is no difference. I don't know why you're questioning that."
So first off, it's not your property until you trademark it.
Ah,
And second off, you can actually do a legal name change. I have a state case where a judge signed off on me to have a legal name change, changing my name legally from all caps Brandon Joe Williams to upper and lowercase Brandon Joe Williams. So I don't have that discussion. I just send them the document, and then if they don't perform, then they're going to get sued for, whatever, for failing to comply with it, with a judicial order. I have a judicial
wow.
order. They cannot place that all caps name. And then if they place that all caps name on a financial document, which would be defined as either an unconditional promise or order to pay anything in any way, like for example, if they place that all caps name on a ticket, if they gave me a speeding ticket and they place that all caps name on it, I would file a federal trademark violation case for manufacturing a negotiable instrument without my permission. I would
I
actually sue
love that
the
so
a
much.
police officer. I would sue the police station for over $50,000 in damages for trademark violation.
But can you not go and just say, I have no idea who this person is in caps because that's not me?
You can, but I prefer to do a trademark and a name change. It's my franchise. So
Okay.
in California, when you pay state tax, you pay it to what's called the franchise tax board, and this is actually a brilliant way. I've described this in a million different ways, but it's hard to really tie it down sometimes, right? In California, it's pretty easy because I told the judge in one of my federal cases, I said, judge, when you go and pay state taxes, you pay them to the franchise tax board. What is the legal definition of a franchise? It's your name in all capital letters when you pay to the franchise tax board, right?
Okay.
A franchise is a fucking business. It's very simple. Literally, they tell you straight out, it's a fucking business.
So you're paying when you get a bill for taxes, you're actually just taking your money
And
and you're
paying
giving
your
it to a
business's
business.
tax bill. It's a business. And what is a business?
My God.
What is a business? Right here, I got it highlighted. What's a business?
A person.
You got it.
Oh my God.
So the all
That is
caps name in California is really, really
crazy.
easy to explain. because everyone in the entire state is paying state taxes to what's called the franchise tax board. The franchise tax board, franchise means business. It's the easiest. We could go into all these other discussions and we can go into deep philosophical conversations, and I could show you 1,000 different definitions and all that. But this, as of right now, September 28th, 2024, this is sort of like the way I'm doing it in the federal court system and in the state court system. I'm keeping it really, really simple. In state of California, we pay the state taxes to the franchise tax board. It has our name in all capital letters. It says that this all capital letter name owes these taxes. We pay these taxes in all capital letters. What is a franchise? Franchise is a business. What is a business? Business is a person. Very simple.
So
Very
you're
simple.
paying, so at the end of the day, you're paying your money to a person.
Yeah, the person called Brandon Joe Williams in all caps has a tax liability. I am the fiduciary or the authorized representative of the business. I am the attorney in fact, I guess would be the simplest way of saying it.
Yeah. Why do you say that attorney in fact rather than attorney at law?
So if you go down that rabbit hole, I have all that here on the Williams and Williams Law firm.com in the questions and answers section.
Okay.
So if you go just literally straight into Black's Law and you keep it that simple without reading all of this, this is a full breakdown of the whole subject. If you look up attorney in Black's Law, it has this line right here. Public attorney, a name sometimes given to an attorney at law as distinguished from a private attorney or attorney in fact. Now, this whole public versus private thing is very confusing for people.
Ah,
People think that public means like in an open forum, like online or in some way, and private means not communicated on a public forum. That
right.
has absolutely nothing to do with the definition of public and private. Public, the legal definition of the word public, means having to do with a governmental office. Private means non-government, private
Wow.
commercial activity.
Wow.
So if I were to reword this in normal English, it would be an attorney for a government employee, a name sometimes given to an attorney at law, as distinguished from somebody who does not work for the government, which is called an attorney in fact. And that's actually how that reads, right?
And then the bar, I love what it says there. The bar is a private club that pretends as though it is the legal standard.
Yeah, the bar does not issue licenses. It issues just membership cards. These are membership cards. Now, the way it works is if you look at lawsuits and stuff like that, the reason why, so this is the way it works, is it's actually very simple. And even the courts don't know this. It's really sad. Federal
What?
judges don't know this. Yeah.
They are the ones who enforce all of this crap.
So when you have a trust, whatever property that's in that trust is called the res of the trust. What is the legal definition of RES? Right? Thing or matter. It refers to object, interest, or status as opposed to a person. It's typically used for trusts. So like a trust, there has to be res in order for there to be a trust. There has to be an asset or cash or gold or silver or property rights or a patent or a trademark. There has to be some kind of res or thing that the entire trust is based upon. If there's no res, there's no trust. So what happens is when you go into a court of law, the definition of the word client, if you become a client of an attorney at law, if you look in corpus juris secundum, is defined as one who applies to a lawyer. Clients are also called wards of the court. Wards of the court. What the hell is that?
Yeah, what is that?
So you look up wards of the
What?
court. It means infants or
Infants?
persons of unsound mind. So what
Wow.
happens is when you take on an attorney at law, you become a ward of the court, which is essentially
Oh,
the res of the trust of the court.
God.
So what happens is the prosecuting attorneys become the beneficiary of the trust, the judge become the trustees of the trust, and you become the res of the situation, which is why you cannot speak. The attorney has to speak for you, and that's why you don't have the ability to call upon your rights when you take on an attorney at law, because you don't have any rights as an infant or person of unsound mind. You become property of the court.
Oh my God.
The
I
entire purpose of a bar card membership is essentially the courts and the bar have a essentially a contract that the bar is the exclusive group allowed to administer the assets or the res of the trusts in the courts. So, for example, I cannot represent you in a court of law. I am not essentially registered or licensed to administer the assets of the court, right? So the thing is that you would need an attorney at law if you wanted to become more like where you don't do anything. You can't do anything. It's not even that you could do something. Once you take on an attorney at law, you become the res of the courtroom. You are the res. And when I say you are the res, I mean like literally like if we were having a lawsuit about this gold coin in my hand, and you claim the gold coin and I claim the gold coin, this gold coin becomes the res of the court case. So the judge is now going to take jurisdictional property rights over the res, and then now whoever he says gets the res is the person who gets the res, right? When you take on an attorney at law, you become property, just like this gold coin. You become the res. You become literal property of the court. Property cannot speak. And that's why when it comes to like children and stuff like that in the court systems, I always recommend that people stop treating them like your children and start treating them like your property. Trademark them, trademark their DNA. The more you do things like that, the more what happens is you take away res power from the court and they can't do anything with the property more because you have seen your claim over the property.
this is this has blown my mind. I mean, I have watched so much of your stuff, but wow. And bar, I see it. Is that an acronym? British
They say
something
it's not. As far as I'm concerned, it is. It's the British Accreditation Regency or whatever. I mean,
registry. Yeah.
it's
So
very simple because the thing is that they use the term Esquire. Esquire is an English term, so
yes.
duh. I mean, it doesn't require a fucking. They say, oh no, that's bullshit. Bar just stands for the bar outside of the. Okay, then why are you using old English terms to describe everything? And why is it that ever since Lincoln, every goddamn president's been a fucking attorney? I mean,
Mm,
it doesn't require a fucking rocket scientist to figure this out. I mean,
yeah. So I asked
plus
ChatGPT about bar, and it said that it has nothing to do, and that's a conspiracy theory. And bar means the bar that's literally in front of the
in
judge.
front of
And
the
when it
thing that
says
separates the. I know.
that's right, and when they say approach, like that means you approach that bar.
Yeah, check this out. What is it? 36 USC. Is it this one? Yeah,
Organization. No.
this one? Let's see here. Federal Bar Association domicile title 36.
Ceremonies. Oh, there you go.
Let's see here. The foundation of the Federal Bar Association, called the
The
Corporation,
corporation.
is a federally chartered corporation, place of incorporation and domicile. The corporation is declared to be incorporated and domiciled in the District of Columbia.
Good old DC.
Everything is in DC. Everything is in DC. The Department of Transportation is in Washington, DC. The Treasury is in Washington, DC. State of California is in Washington, DC. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if the DMV is in Washington, DC.
I love what you said. I think in one of the videos that I watched where you were speaking, you said so DC is how many miles?
10 square miles.
10 square miles. And you said, so where exactly is the US, like within that particular perimeter?
Yeah,
Because
I've never
you could walk that
seen
perimeter and you're not gonna, where exactly is the US?
Yeah, I've never seen exactly in coordinates where this place called the United States is located within the 10-mile square radius called Washington, D.C. So United States is basically a state inside of Washington, D.C. It's sort of like California is a state inside of what people think is the United States of America. It's the same idea, right? And you say, well, how can they get away using the term United States? Well, all of the U.S. territories are all states. They're not states that are in the same country as the, so basically the way it works is this: U.S. territories, 14 territories, right?
Oh,
So United States is Washington, D.C., and all of these. United States is an entire country, essentially. The main superstate is Washington, D.C., and all of the sub-states is all of these United States territories. Whereas the United States of America is the 50 independent nation states. And actually, each independent state of the United States of America, for example, California or Arizona, is legally a separate country. The United States of America originally, before it was incorporated in 1871, it's just like Europe. You have the European Union, but
that's
then
right.
every single state inside of the European Union is a separate country. And that's how it is still even to this day. So the 1849 version of the California uh, uh, Constitution is as regards to the country called California. I had to go to the law library because you can't find the goddamn thing on the internet.
I remember
So
you saying
so
this. Yes.
so I went home and I scanned it. So this is the Constitution for the country called California. If you'd like to see the Constitution for the business called State of California, which is located in the District of Columbia, you would type in California Constitution 1879. This is the Constitution for the business. So here's the business. Here's the country.
Oh, wow.
Here's the business. Here's the country.
My God.
And then it gets more complicated. For example, how many constitutions are there for Texas? There's 5, I believe. Yeah,
7.
there's 7. So Texas there's actually 7 different versions of Texas, and they're all completely different. And through naturalization, you pick the one you want. You pick, they're all still here. You pick the one you want through naturalization. So people are angry, but you actually have infinite freedom, right?
That's actually
Naturalization
true.
is the conferring of nationality of a state upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever. People think just because you hear state of Texas or Texas, it's all the same. No, there's 7 different fucking versions of Texas. Right around here is probably where it
1869.
got incorporated. Maybe here, maybe.
1866.
So anything from here to here, this was all unincorporated, but they're all still separate states. So these would be all unincorporated versions of the state or states. These down here are probably the later incorporated versions of the states. And incorporated means underneath United States, which is a state inside of the District of Columbia. So these 3 would be located in the District of Columbia. This one, I'm not sure about, the 66 one. 69, I suppose maybe that one. I would imagine, yeah, reconstruction policies. Yeah, so this one definitely would be in the Washington, D.C. That took place when Texas rejoined the United States after the Civil War. Okay, so this one would definitely be in Washington, D.C. or incorporated. When Texas ceded from the Union and joined the Confederate States of America. That one, I don't know. I would need to dig into that one more. So I would say, if I had to assume, all of these would be non-DC, non-incorporated, and these would be all DC incorporated.
Wow.
So let's say, for example, you wanted to confer the nationality of Texas. You would write version of Texas 1824 Constitution.
When it was part of Mexico.
It was part of Mexico. So this would be the state that you would naturalize into if you wanted to be under the 1824 Constitution.
So you get to pick under which constitution you.
Yes. Well, each one of these is a different state. This 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 is a different state. Because if you had one constitution for the same state, you would just amend the constitution, just like they've done 890 trillion times for the United States Constitution, which is different than the United States of America.
And all of these states exist simultaneously.
Yes.
Jesus.
You
Wow.
pick which one you want to be. Now it gets wilder because what's the definition of person from Title 8?
The term person means an individual or an organization.
So, what is naturalization? The conferring of nationality of a state upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever. So, not only do you pick which one of these that you want to be inside of, you also pick which one you want all of your trust, estates, corporation, partnership, associations to. So let's say I have a trust called Brandon Joe Williams Trust, which I do because I don't have everything's trust in my life, all private irrevocable trust, right? So Brandon Joe Williams Trust, I'm not doing this live on the show because I don't want to do this, but if I wanted to, I hereby confer the nationality of the state called Texas under the 1827 Constitution of the state of Coahuila and Tejas upon Brandon Joe Williams Trust after birth by any means whatsoever. And I effectively just moved that person, which is an individual or an organization, into the 1827 version of the state called Texas.
Wow. And everybody in the US, as that is defined, can do this.
Yes. And you can do it on, technically, you can even naturalize other people. And if they don't actively rebut your attempted naturalization, that naturalization becomes truth in law. If I confer the nationality of the 1861 Constitution version of Texas upon you, and you didn't actively say, oh, no, that's not true. I'm actually the 1836 Constitution version of Texas, you would actually be naturalized into the 1861.
1861.
You can, it doesn't say naturalization of yourself or things of which you control that are legal fictions. It literally just says anyone can confer nationality on anyone or anything. You could actually move Starbucks Incorporated into the 1841 Constitution version of Texas by conferring 1845 Constitution version of Texas upon Starbucks Incorporated after birth by any means whatsoever. And if they don't actively rebut that assumption becomes truth in law because it comes a contract. You're creating a contractual novation. You can legally move Starbucks into the fucking past. You can time travel and you can put Starbucks in a fucking time traveling device and send it to 1845. If they don't actively fight that assumption, they've officially just gone back to the future.
Wow. Okay. So I wanted to ask because I really want the audience to hear this about so in the US you guys call them instruments. How do you call money?
Oh, negotiable instruments.
Negotiable instruments. In Canada we call them banknotes because I looked this up. So we don't have the Federal Reserve, but we do have the Bank of Canada. And the Bank of Canada provides us with what they call notes.
Yeah, it's all the same shit. But
It
yes.
is. Okay. Can we treat them in the same manner that you treat them in the United States? Basically, you look at it and say, that's just something that you um, provided to us, but does it have the value?
Well, I would assume the answer is yes, and I put money on it. But
Oh, yes,
it
I did look this up. Yeah.
so what is
PPSA.
the Canadian version of the UCC? It says here PPSA.
Yes. And it's province by province, just like you guys have it state by state.
PP read PPSA online. Uh
Ontario is like the province that I live in.
Negotiable
Instrument.
instruments. PPSA Canada. Promissory notes.
Yeah, see that you find almost nothing.
I would go to a local law library in this situation personally,
Okay.
and I would find if the UCC is the PPSA, I would find books on the PPSA, and I would put money down that it looks almost exactly the same as the UCC. I will be willing to bet I wouldn't be surprised if every single fucking word and every single chapter and everything matched up literally perfectly.
Is it because it comes from the British, just like it did in the United States before you guys went and
No,
deployed?
it's because
Okay.
every single country that has any central banking, it's all the same. It's all the same game. It's the same fucking game.
Okay. Okay.
So the only
So,
countries that wouldn't operate in this way would be there's only like three or four or five left in the whole world that don't have central banks.
mm, okay.
So central banking, what they do is the first thing they want to do when they get a central bank in is they want to remove gold and silver currency, money, and they want to replace it with promissory notes, which is negotiable instruments. And actually, ironically enough, if you go to the 1849 Constitution of California, Constitution, and you go down to Article 4, Section 35 and 36, I believe it is. Article 4, Section 35 and 36. Article 3, where is it? Maybe it is Article 3. Let me just check and see here, make sure I
When
get
did
this
they
right.
have time to write all of this nonsense?
Article 4, if we go down to Section 35 and 36, check this out. This is really shocking.
Okay, 35. The legislature of the state shall prohibit by law any person or persons, association, company, or corporation from exercising the privilege of banking or creating paper to circulate as money. Oh my God. Each stockholder of a corporation or joint stock association shall be individually or personally liable for his proportion
Sorry,
of all its
34,
debts.
34 and 35. Look at 34.
The legislature shall have no power to pass any act granting any charter of banking for banking purposes, but associations may be formed under general laws for the deposit of gold and silver, but no such association shall make, issue, or put in circulation any bill, check, ticket, certificate, promissory note, or other paper, or the paper of any bank to circulate as money.
So they've known for hundreds of years that the
Oh,
banking cartel,
wow.
this is the way the banking cartel works. It's always the same game, right? Are Federal
Oh my
Reserve
God.
notes promissory notes? You don't need to go far. Here's your answer. Google tells you, right?
Federal
So,
Reserve notes are promissory notes. They are a type of paper currency that are
but this is
non-interest
why
bearing.
this is why it's legal. Because everyone in California is naturalized into the business called state of California. In state of California, it's perfectly legal to use Federal Reserve notes as currency. In California, which is where I'm located, even on paper, it's completely forbidden. The problem is there's no government in California. There's only a government in state of
State of
California.
California.
California is a completely abandoned, derelict country. There's no one there.
So then people who pay bills, let's talk about, because I'm a health practitioner, so I want people to understand, because I know that in the United States, Canada is moving towards a very privatized healthcare system, healthcare capital. There's not much health and much care in it, but nevertheless, right now it's state run, which is how it worked in the country I was born in, which was a communist country. Everything was state run, which is how it works in Canada at the moment, but it's moving towards privatization because it's much more profitable to be privatized. So in the United States, you guys pay an insurance company, and then there are some out of pocket expenses. And I hear that you go to the hospital and let's say you give birth there, your bill is tens of thousands of dollars. Are people,
Basically, no one pays any of those bills. But yes, I don't think I've ever once heard of anyone ever paying a hospital bill in America. But yes,
how dare they then even think that they could just say to you, hey, Brandon, you owe us $15,726 because you came with a broken leg and we treated you?
They just send bills and then they just like people just don't pay it or whatever, and then it just kind of goes away, and then they just either report it or they don't. It's just kind of like a I don't really know how else to really describe it. I mean,
But what's the point of doing that to begin with if people are not going to pay it and it's not even like
I don't know.
legally required?
I don't know. I
Are
mean,
they
now,
allowed to do
now,
that?
once you learn the stuff that I teach in the course, and you teach and you learn how to what's called negotiate negotiable instruments and endorse them, we pay all our bills with a signature.
Okay, so they can do that for cars.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of free cars.
Okay.
We get student loan debts wiped off the face of the earth, credit card debts, all that stuff's very easy.
Give us a quick example. I really want people to know. That's why people, this is why I said that course 2.0 is your ticket to ultimate life freedom from God.
So we've already covered. So if we go into the UCC 3-104, this is where we
Okay.
start getting into what
Mm.
is a negotiable instrument. So money, it's a long rabbit hole to go
It
down, but to
is.
be simple, money is defined as gold and silver coins. If you look at Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution in America, it says no state shall issue anything except gold and silver coins as a tender in payment of debts. So basically, that is essentially there's another area where they define money in Black's law. We can look that up real quick, which I think it's here. Let's see, money. Yeah. Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. And then the definition in Black's law, in usual and ordinary acceptation, it means gold, silver, or paper money used as a circulating medium of exchange and does not embrace notes, bonds, evidences of debt, or other personal or real estate. A Federal Reserve note is a note. So a Federal Reserve note would not legally be defined as money. So if you say, okay, well, it's not money, what the fuck is it? The answer is it's a negotiable instrument. The exact thing that Congress or whoever it was said. What did it say here? No prohibited by law any person or persons, associations, companies, or corporations from exercising the privileges of banking or creating paper to
To
circulate
circulate
as
as
money.
money.
And then they say here, will not put in circulation any bill, check, ticket, certificate, promissory note. It
Or
is
other paper.
illegal. It is forbidden and illegal to use Federal Reserve notes as currency. Now, if we had silver and gold coins and that was what was used to buy things and exchange things, and then Federal Reserve notes were like a security down on Wall Street, that would be legal. But using a security such as a promissory note as circulating currency to buy coffee and to go to the grocery store with, that's illegal. And they've known about this for a long time. Even the founding fathers in the 1700s talk about this.
Can
Our
anybody?
entire existence for the past hundreds of years
Yeah.
has simply been the bankers trying to put in all of this silliness and then us trying to prevent it or stop it or reboot the country. That's the entire story of the human race for a long time.
So can anybody go back and say, okay, for the last hundreds of years or however long, you guys duped us. We want our money back. Can we do that?
You don't need to, because when you understand how the system works, you can print all the money you want right now, and nobody can stop you from doing it. You can get any bill to simply vanish, and they literally have to do it by law. And if they don't, then you can sue the shit out of them. And technically speaking, you can put them in jail for 25 years. I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of Title 18 criminal statutes on this. I mean, good luck finding a DA. I mean, you'd need to find a DA for something like that. But anyways, I mean, you could probably, I mean, find a DA who's got a lot of fucking credit card issues and is pissed off at the banks, and they came and took his family and put him on the street, and if you're gonna find a DA like that, I mean, you could probably prosecute and put people in prison for decades, right? But the answer to the question is what's in my wallet? You see that in America, you see these Capital One commercials. What's in your wallet, right? Well, what's in
Yes.
my wallet is negotiable instruments, not money. You fucking assholes, you tricksters, right? So
So So tell us, what does it mean? It means that this is an instrument that you can negotiate. What do you negotiate?
So negotiate means transfer or redeem or exchange.
Okay.
Instrument just means it's a very, very, very vague term, meaning like it has like it's not very, very like a tight definition. It's very open. It just means like any document or I mean almost anything. It's just anything really. It's just like a document or a piece of paper or a contract or a whatever. So negotiable means transferable or redeemable, and then instrument means like a document or a contract or something. Usually almost anything, right? So a promise. So what is a negotiable instrument? They fit into two different categories. An unconditional promise to pay would be one category, which is what the promissory note is, and then the second category is an unconditional order to pay, which is called a bill or bill of exchange, right? So
Okay.
when you get a bill in the mail
Yeah.
and it doesn't say you may if you would like to pay $83 for your phone bill this month. When they say, "Hey, asshole, pay $83 this month, or we're turning your shit off," this is not a debate. That's what makes it unconditional.
Okay.
So a mortgage payment that you make every month when you get your bill, it's not asking you would you like to pay. It's telling you very directly you need to pay this by this date,
Yes.
or bad things are going to happen. That's what
Yes.
makes it unconditional. It is an unconditional order to pay. Now, what's
Yes.
crazy is an unconditional order to pay is a negotiable instrument. A Federal Reserve note is also a negotiable instrument. That bill is cash. And that's the part that's most difficult for people to get their head wrapped around.
Yes.
Bill is cash. They
So
are sending
basically,
you cash.
okay, so that's what I was going to ask. So the bill they send you, it means that they're sending you cash. So then how do they trick you into actually saying, but let me give you money, even though this is cash that you're sending to me?
So what happens is that you have to understand. So the technology of negotiation means the technology of how negotiable instruments are transferred, redeemed, or assigned. Now, when we start getting into the technology of negotiation using UCC Article 3, we're going to go down to, I believe it's 3-205, which is a great place to start. So what we're doing is we have this term called endorsement, right? So what is an endorsement? An endorsement is, I think it's UCC 8-102, subsection 14. Nope. Subsection 11. I was close. Endorsement means a signature that alone or accompanied by other words is made on a security certificate in registered form or on a separate document for the purpose of assigning, transferring, or redeeming the security or granting a power to assign, transfer, or redeem it. So when you sign a bill or a promissory note, or when you get a loan, or when you get a car, you aren't signing the promissory note or promise to pay. You're actually endorsing the promise to pay and negotiating the promise to pay. Okay. So
Mm.
what you're doing is you're actually uh, uh, writing on it words for the purposes of assigning, transferring, or redeeming it. Right now, what's happening is you don't know any of this, and no one ever told you anything. So what you're doing, what's called a blank endorsement. So when you're in physical possession of the promissory note or bill, you're what's called the holder. And there's a little bit more to it, but it gets very complicated very fast. Let's just keep it simple and say 80% of the definition of the word holder means the person in possession of the note or bill. Very simple.
Okay.
One who holds. You could go that. So like a Federal Reserve note, if I hand you one for coffee, you are now the holder of the note.
Okay.
If you give that now to someone else to buy gas, when you hand or the technical term is tender, when you tender that note to the guy at the counter for your gasoline, he is now the holder of the note. Do you see?
Right.
So the holder is the one who has the power to endorse the instrument. When you sign without so when endorsed in blank, um, let me go back to me see if I can find a definition of a blank endorsement, right? So people don't know. So what do you do when you sign for a car, when you sign for a loan? You just write a squiggle that represents you. You write a symbol. Some people have really cool like symbols that they do, right? So all of that is all what's called a blank endorsement, right? So a blank endorsement is an endorsement that is payable to bearer. What that means is payable to whoever is the holder, right? And the reason why is because you failed to state the payee, does not state a payee, right? And I know this is complicated.
It's
Basically,
so complicated.
when you're the holder of a note or bill, you choose and you write, you're like the god of that note or bill while you are in possession of it. You could attach a document to the back of the note or bill that goes
Okay.
on and on and on and on for 400 pages as to exactly how and where the note can be transferred or redeemed or assigned. And you could go on and on and on and say that if the note is in India, the rules of assigning, transferring, and redeeming of this note are hereby changed to the following: Section A, B, C. You could write a tome and attach that entire tome to the back of the note or bill, and that tome now becomes the law for that note or bill. You are the entire legislative branch. You are the God. You have the ability, and you alone actually have the ability to completely and utterly decide the entire functionality of that note or bill. Not forever, just until it gets to the next person.
Okay, so let me get this straight. So in layman's terms, so that the audience can understand in the way that because obviously you're thinking through the mind of somebody who studied law to the depth that you have, which I haven't, but I would like to. So if, let's say, I get my credit card bill from American Express
Mhm.
and I owe them $3,000, do now as the holder, because they sent it to me, so now I'm
That's
holding
correct.
it. Now I'm
Mhm.
the holder. I can attach a piece of paper to that instrument, I
Yep,
guess
there
you
you
called
go.
it, or bill
Yep,
of
that's
exchange.
yep.
And I could say, well, the payee is me.
That's correct. You can make the payee anyone you want. And the way that you make the payee is you write pay to the order of colon, and then you write the payee after it. And I'll show you some examples on my website. So what I did was is I couldn't figure out how this works. So what I did is I had a bunch of people go out and file Freedom of Information Act requests to their mortgage companies and stuff like that. And we started pulling all of the notes from the original mortgage documentation. And we started finding this stuff that's actually written on the mortgage documents after the people and my fans started to release the documents, right? We started seeing this terminology, and it's the same goddamn terminology every time. We have without recourse, pay to the order of, the name of some kind of banking institution,
Okay.
by, and then that's where the squiggles of the person's name or whatever were. And then below that was the name of the person who signed above in typed form, so you can actually read it. And then the person's title or business position, such as vice president, right? Now you see that without recourse gets moved around. Sometimes it's up top, sometimes it's kind of down farther, but it's always the same terminology. You always have a without recourse, and you always have a pay to the order of, and then you have some kind of mortgage corporation, Quicken Loans, Bank of America, NA. This one is Homebridge Financial Services, Inc., DBA Real Estate Mortgage Network. And by the way, you can tell this whole thing is a stamp. So what they're doing is this is not an attached page. This is stamped right on the note without any attachments. Now, let's say there's no room on the instrument to put an endorsement. You would use what's called an allonge. An allonge is a slip of paper affixed to a negotiable instrument, for example, a bill of exchange, for the purpose of receiving additional endorsements for which there may not be sufficient space on the bill itself. So I started to keep digging, keep digging. Can I find an allonge? Sure enough, we did start seeing them. Allonge to note attached to a mortgage.
Oh, wow.
Loan number, property address, principal balance, allonge to note dated in favor of, executed by, pay to the order of, without recourse. It's all the same
Oh my
technology.
God.
By name, title. Now, what is without recourse? Without recourse is actually a type of endorsement called a qualified endorsement. What meaning? Without recourse is a meaning that one party has no legal claim against another party. So
Okay.
what without recourse means in normal English is I'm never going to pay on this, and there's not a goddamn thing you can do about it.
Okay. Because I was going to ask about that. What if they then say, oh, you don't want to pay? Okay, we're going to take you to court and we're going to destroy your life. We're going
Nope.
to take your property. We're going to,
They will do that, but the problem is that we're already learning that they can't do that anymore with us. In fact, we actually write without recourse and then we sue them. And the reason why is because the original note holds all the value of the note. So if I go and get a loan for a $60,000 truck and the promissory note says 4% interest over 6 years, and then the final number in 6 years is going to be $72,000. That note, once released, is worth $72,000.
right.
They've already been paid the full amount. It's like giving them $72,000 in Federal Reserve notes. They are already, in fact, the next level that we're getting to is not only is it fully paid, but you actually have additional overpayments that we are entitled to, and we're actually suing them to get the overpayment returned to us. So the
Okay.
note is for 72,000. The truck was only 60,000. Where's the additional 12,000? I'll give you guys 2,000 because you're the ones who did what's called the swap, which we'll get into in a moment. But the thing is that actually, in fact, the way it really should be is you should actually be paid $10,000 to be given a free car. That's the way
Oh
it
my
should be.
God.
The
That's
2,000
wild.
2,000 should go to the finance company. 60,000 goes to the dealership, and then there's a surplus or overpayment of 10,000, which should come back to you. It's an overpayment.
So basically, then they're double dipping because if that 60,000 goes to them and then they're also asking you to pay, that means that they're getting what, $120,000?
They pocket 12,000 immediately
Holy.
because they get 72,000 back from what's called the Federal Reserve discount window, which I'll explain in a moment. They have a $12,000 surplus. They give the dealership 60,000. They pocket 12,000, and then what they do is they take the original promissory note and they sell it to their buddy who's a bank for 70% of the value,
Wow.
all within 30 or 60 days. That's why whenever you have a mortgage, you'll always notice in America, I don't know about Canada, they always sell the mortgage off to a different mortgage company within 30 or 60 days, almost every
Yes,
single
they
time.
do. CMHC is in Canada.
The reason
And
why is because they sell that note for 70%, but they were already paid a huge amount on the front end because you did a blank endorsement, you fucked up. And then once you fuck up, they get a huge amount on the front end, and then they sell it for 70%, and then they offload it. So
oh my
they make
God.
millions and millions and millions on these things within 30 days from clicking like 4 buttons on a computer.
Jesus. Okay, so speaking of computer, Brandon, because I wanted to ask this. So let's talk about, so I have property and I have a mortgage, which I would like to go back and be like, yeah, I'm not paying you. You guys owe me money for all the interest I paid you over the years. Um,
Well, no, every single payment you've ever made ever was an overpayment.
oh my God. You just kicked me in the stomach with a steel toe boot, Brandon.
Every
Um,
single time you've ever given any financial institution any Federal Reserve notes, you were overpaying on the situation. In fact, like for example, I have an SBA loan. I have an SBA loan, and then it got expanded to 198,000. I've never made a payment using Federal Reserve notes, thankfully. because it was like 2 or 3 years before they were going to start collecting on it. They started calling me recently to collect on it. And I told them, hey, actually, in fact, you guys are actually over collateralized. You guys actually have an overpayment on this. I need all the overpayment returned to me. Otherwise, we're going to litigation. That's the whole SBA case. And I just
Mm.
filed that. I think they have 30 days to respond to that litigation. And I think it was filed 4, 5, 6 days ago. So I'm actually going after the SBA. I'm going after American Express. The American Express case was dismissed, but we are now in appeals in the Ninth Circuit. I'll go all the way to the Supreme Court. I'll go all the way to the Supreme Court with every single case I ever do.
Okay, so you can do that because you're so knowledgeable on this. I mean, you could go down any rabbit hole and you could like do a PhD level kind of a thesis on each one thing. But for the
Well,
average
the
person who
2.0 course teaches most of what you're going to need to know to start doing your own litigation,
excellent.
including how to file complaints in forma pauperis, which means in the form of a pauper. There's a special petition that you can actually fill out, and as long as, from all the research I've gathered, as long as your complaint is real and it's structured halfway decent and it isn't like a giant pile of shit and it's not like doesn't make sense, or it's not like structured in some fucking totally wrong way that would never go anywhere anyways, typically, from everything I've heard in America, they're very, very liberal about approving those petitions. Now, those petitions defer, meaning push until later all payments for the lawsuit as well as payments to serve the lawsuit on the other party until later. And then at the very end, when you win or there's a settlement, at that point, the lawsuit fees, the appeal fees, and the servicing fees and any other fees would come out of the winnings or settlement, and that's called filing in forma pauperis. I teach how to do that as well. So people are
Oh, perfect.
concerned about the cost of all of this. The only cost of any of this is paper and ink. That's all you're going to pay. I don't do in forma pauperis because I've read some things where paupers and stuff, they have a lower standing in the court. I don't know exactly how much of that is actually true in the statutory courts we have now. I think it's more like I've read that from old old constitutions from like 100 plus years ago. I don't know how much of that is true now. I just didn't want to risk that or like have that be a part of the conversation at some later point. So I pay Federal Reserve notes, which are negotiable instruments, to get all of my lawsuits going and rolling. But I'm trying all the time to figure out how to make all of this accessible for everyone, and not accessible for people who have just, the people who have $405 to spend on a lawsuit, but anyone should have access to the courts to press their claims, etc. So I teach how to structure a claim. I teach how to go into Pacer to do case research. I teach you how to build evidence using Freedom of Information Act requests. We go through a bunch of my cases. We teach that. I teach you how to structure a complaint, some of the basic ideas of structuring a complaint. We go through some of the complaints that I've done. I show you a little bit about informa pauperis. I teach about local pro se clinics at the federal level and at the state level. Like, for example, in LA, you can go to local law universities. They have pro se clinics. They will help you and teach you how to build complaints. They have local law libraries with we joke about it, very lonely librarians that not a lot of people come in. They don't have a lot of traffic there. They'd love to see you. They'd love to have you. They get very excited. I've had so many reports all over the country of law librarians just absolutely fucking losing it over how excited they are that people are actually coming in, and they just don't. I've had so many reports where someone will come in and they want to structure a lawsuit or multiple lawsuits, and there's three librarians that don't have anything going on, and they wind up surrounded by law librarians that are all super excited, and they have this really cool powwow for fucking free.
That's
Zero
amazing.
fucking dollars.
That's amazing. That's
Zero
amazing.
fucking dollars. Right. So for me, I teach all of this, or I teach resources, or I at least give you avenues. I give you as much as I possibly can in the course. and all through the course, I'm saying over and over again, I'm not going to jerk you off. I have a lot of like rude and lewd, jokey type stuff that I say. The whole point is, you can't drag someone through a court case. It's it's the one thing in life. I mean, there's a lot of things in life, but it's the one thing in life you are the driving force. You will always be the driving force. Unless you want to take on an attorney at law and then they become the driving force, but then then you become the res. You're now an infant or a person of unsound mind. And your position in the court is heavily degraded at that point, because the attorney at law is what's called an officer of the court. And if you look up what an officer of the court is, their number one priority is to the court, their number two priority is to the public, and the number three priority is to the client. You are third in line if you have an attorney at law. When you go pro se, not only do you have the full power, not only are you no longer res or property of the court, but there's actually many, many laws and many, many aspects where they have to go a lot easier on you. Like, for example, at the appellate level, an attorney at law has to do like a table of contents, and like sometimes there's certain jurisdictions where it's like it's got to be on blue paper, and like it's all this fucking complicated, crazy structural blah blah blah. A pro se litigant, they send you a fucking yellow packet. Here, I'll get it. Hold on one second. I'll go get it for you. They send you the court, the ninth circuit sends you a fucking packet. I'll do a shop share on this and I'll show you this. So they have this packet that they send you. All right. Free of charge. And you open it up and it's got all this information in it, right? It's quite a bit. It looks like, oh, geez, that's a lot, right? But then you start viewing it. Okay. We have, here's the fact that it was filed. Here's the scheduling order, the various things that have to happen at certain dates. And then here we have what you need to know. And they have this big stapled thing that they send you, right? It's pro se information. And it's very simple. How appeals works. And they have little diagrams. And I'm telling you, this is not that difficult to read. You don't need to be an attorney and you don't need to be me to figure this stuff out. They send you all this for free. Your case number. We have assigned you, your case, a Court of Appeals case number, also called a docket number. You can find the number at the top of the letter you receive with this guide. Include your Court of Appeals case number on all papers you send to the court or the opposing party. When you read the rules associated with attorneys at law, it's like, fuck you. It's got to be like blue ink, and this has got to go up here, and it's got to be 12 font, and it's got to be Times New Roman. And if you don't, we're throwing it all out. Fuck you. It's a completely going pro se and operating as yourself and operating on your own is so much less annoying to the point where it's actually literally better in so many ways, right? So it says here, complete your forms properly. Use these guidelines. Use white 8.5 by 11 inch paper. Use blue or black pen or type. If you write by hand, please write clearly. Number your pages and put them in order. If this was an attorney at law and it was like the local rules for how an appellate procedures, it'd be go on and on. There'd be 50 pages of it's got to be this way and this way. And if you're putting a table of content, it's got to be structured with the margin on the left side is 2.6 inches and the margin on the right side is 2.4 inches. And it's got to come down and it has to be indented. And then the indent has to be, it's craziness, right? But when you're pro se, it's, hey, don't write like an idiot. Hey, use normal paper, not goofy paper like an idiot. Like it's very, your filing fee for your case is $605. Your fee is due when you file your notice of appeal. If you don't pay the fee, you will receive a notice informing you have 21 days to either pay the fee or request a waiver if you can't afford to pay. If you can't afford to pay, you may ask the court to waive your fee by completing a form called a motion to proceed in forma pauperis, which is fucking attached. It's fucking attached. They give you the goddamn thing. You go in the back here and they attach. So this looks all fat and like crazy. And you're like, I don't want to read all this. Most of this is just forms. This form here is a motion and affidavit for permission to proceed in forma pauperis. It gives you instructions. That's the instructions page. Look at this. It tells you how easy it is.
Oh, wow.
They give you little boxes. You could take a pen and just write this and go down to downtown LA and file it in at the federal. You could just give it to them at the fucking window. You don't have to e-file. And I swear under penalty of perjury that I am financially unable to pay the docket and filing fees for my appeal. I believe my appeal has merit. I swear under penalty of perjury of the United States laws that my answers on this form are true and correct. Signature date. The court may grant a motion to proceed in forma pauperis if you show that you cannot pay the filing fees and you have a non-frivolous legal issue on appeal. Please state your issues on appeal. Attach additional pages if necessary. You put the Ninth Circuit case number, you put the case name, you sign here, and you write here your issues. I had this issue, I had this issue, I had this issue. And then it says here, it wants a breakdown of your financials to verify that you are in fact a pauper. They want your now this is not, none of this is required if you just pay. This is only for
$600.
This is only for if you're going in form of pauperous. They want all your info that goes on and on and on. Financial institutions, how much cash do you have? So you're gonna have to fill all this out, assets, right? You have to fill all this out. It's no longer than a job fucking application, but you're gonna need to fill all this out if you want to go in form of pauperous. And then you can see here this is the last one, total monthly expenses, right? But if you don't want in form of pauperous, you can pay with a check. You can go down to the federal courthouse. You can pay with a credit card. You'll be in and out of there in 5 minutes. Here is all other motions to do all sorts of other things. And they have instructions, motion for extension of time. It tells you how to use it. And then it literally just has fucking check boxes. I request an extension of time to file.
That's amazing.
They send you all this for fucking free. I didn't even ask for this. They sent this to me when I filed the case.
That's crazy how much people can do and they don't know.
No one knows. You don't need any fucking money.
Jesus.
Now, if you go in there and you're like, oh, how do I collect evidence? Or like, oh, what kind of causes of action could I use for this situation? That's called giving legal advice. So giving legal advice has actually a legal definition. They won't do that. They won't build your case for you. They won't push your claims. No one should be doing that. Fuck that. You're not some fucking, it's not a place for little, weak little fucks that want other people to do the work for them. It's not, I don't necessarily even have a disagreement with that. The procedural aspects of what forms do I fill out? Where do I put my name? Where do I sign? Do I need any other form besides this one? Those are all procedural questions. Those wouldn't be considered legal advice. Legal advice involves your claims, your evidence, your structure, your case, your situation. That's legal advice. Where do I file this? How do I go in propria pauperis? What type of summons do I use? Where do I put my name on this? Those are all things that the clerks will help you. You can go down to the local clerk place, and then you have the pro se clinics. The pro se clinics can help you a little bit more. They can help you do like case research. Like, for example, what kind of statutes would I use if a police officer hit me with his baton for no reason? Okay, blah, 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 blah. That would be what we saw earlier, 42 USC 1983. And then there'll also be some other ones or whatever. So that may require a little more research. And that's like so borderline legal advice. It's a little bit tough, right? You may need to ask a few people and see if you can get some help. AI is good with, I'm not a big AI fan, but AI is really good at helping you find statutes. It's not good with much else. Like, I wouldn't recommend you put much of what I've been telling you in there. It's just going to spout out a bunch of horse shit.
Yeah.
But in terms of like finding statutes that you can use as what's called causes of action. So a cause of action is duty, breach, damages. So someone had a duty. For example, you're driving an automobile. Don't drive it like a lunatic and run people over on the side of the road. Running people over at a crosswalk. When you had a red light and they had a green light and you slammed into a mother and her child, you had a duty to not run over women and children on the sidewalk. You breached that duty, and then now there's damages. That is the structure of what is called a cause of action.
Okay.
Cause of action. So like if you had a duty to not keep talking to someone over and over and over again in a way that's really annoying and kind of scary, and you breached that by constantly sexually whatever advancing toward a woman and she didn't want it, and then there was damages where she doesn't feel comfortable in the workplace anymore, the cause of action would be harassment. Duty, breach, damages, cause of action. And that's the structure. Cause of action 1, cause of action 2, cause of action 3, cause of action 4. And all you're explaining in each cause of action is duty, breach, damages.
That's so simple.
It's so simple. And you can do it in form of pauperous. You don't need to pay a fucking penny.
That's insane. And I know that in Canada, the same. You could self-represent. So you
Yeah, I
can
don't I
go,
don't use the word represent just real quick, because represent infers there's two parties. I
ah,
mean, there is two parties, but you have to actually understand how that works. I say present, but
present. Okay.
I use the ens legis and I put the ens legis into the lawsuit, and then I'm just the agent on behalf of the ens legis. So I am representing, but I'm not representing myself. I'm representing the ens legis.
That's right.
So
The name in capital letters.
I do it in a very unique way that most people have never seen. I don't know if the court system's ever really seen the way in which I present in a court of law, because I don't represent myself, and I'm also not even there. I'm actually just the attorney, in fact, on behalf of who is there, which is the all caps name,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the reason why that is because with all these financial transactions, it's not you that's involved, it's the all caps name, right? And the reason why that is because if you look on all your bills, you see all these attachments and you see all these things and you see this coupon or voucher at the bottom and you see all these things. That's all based off of 18 USC 8, which is a very shocking. 18 USC 8 is obligations or other securities of the United States defined. So obligations or other securities of the United States includes all bonds, certificates of indebtedness, national bank currency, Federal Reserve notes, Federal Reserve bank notes, coupons, United States notes, Treasury notes, gold certificates, silver certificates, fractional notes, certificates of deposit, bills, checks, drafts, everything.
So
And they say drawn by or upon authorized officers of the
officers.
United States. So the all caps name is an authorized officer of the United States.
Okay.
So all bills have your all caps name because that all caps name is an authorized officer of the United States, and that is actually an obligation or other security of the United States. It's not your bills at all. You don't receive bills. The only bills that you ever receive are from like local dry cleaners or something that send you these little, people who have no clue about any of this and they just type some shit up on a computer. That would be a bill to you. Financial institutions, governments, the DMV, none of those bills or any of that shit has anything has to do with you. It has to do with the franchise,
The business.
the business.
So that's what I was going to ask you. Do all lawyers, banks, especially banks that like you have a mortgage with or a credit card with, do they all know what you just said? Like, for example, do they know that your caps letter?
Almost none of them know anything I've said throughout everything that I've said in this entire show from literally the very beginning.
So
The,
how do
the
you?
only thing in this whole show that I would say a decent majority of people would know. I'm not even sure what percentage of them would know even what it means, is the definition of the word person includes legal fictions. That is more commonly known in these circles. They don't know what that means. They don't know what that entails, but they do know that the word person also encompasses legal fictions.
So if you were to send a bill, an invoice, whatever they send you back to the bank, and without recourse in the signature, just like you showed, if those people don't know, they're gonna look and be like, "Is this person on crack? Like, what the hell is this?"
And that's the basis of all my lawsuits. So once you send, so I've developed a little acronym. It's holder, endorsement, tender, acceptance. And to get back to what I was talking about before, payable to bearer or to order. Payable to bearer is a blank endorsement. A blank endorsement does not state the payee, does not say paid to the order of. But then you have a different type of endorsement called a special endorsement. It's made by the holder, right? And then it's payable to an identified person. And the endorsement identifies a person to whom it makes the instrument payable. When specially endorsed, an instrument becomes payable to the identified person and may be negotiated only by the endorsement of that person. Everyone is doing a blank endorsement rather than a special endorsement. If you do a special endorsement, the entire loan instantaneously discharges off of itself, and there's a surplus of money that you're actually entitled to. If you make yourself the payee, pay to the order of Brandon Joe Williams. So what happens is they take this note that you signed and they go to what is called the Federal Reserve discount window, which is what you're seeing here on the screen. If you go to the master account and services database, you can go to existing access and you can see every single banking institution or credit union that has Federal Reserve discount
Oh,
window
wow.
access. And you can see when they got access,
Oh
right?
my God.
And you can see the type of insurance they have, their location, etc. And you can also see for anyone who is requesting access to the Federal Reserve discount window, there's an entire section for that as well. You can go down, you can see that the date they requested for access to the Federal Reserve discount window, the tier level they're asking for, tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3. You can see if it's pending, approved, etc. If it is approved, you can see the approval date to have access to the Federal Reserve discount window. The Federal Reserve discount window is where they swap that original promissory note that you released with a blank endorsement for Federal Reserve notes. And that's how the quote unquote loan, which isn't a loan, gets quote unquote funded. You funded your own loan. Every motherfucking person who's ever
Jesus.
used a credit card or gotten a loan or a mortgage funded their own loan by doing a blank endorsement on the original, what is called collateral security. 12 USC 412 explains
Oh my
this
God.
process. This is the process of how it works. They can make an application to the local Federal Reserve agent for such amount of Federal Reserve notes. Such application shall be accompanied with a tender of collateral in amount equal to the sum of the Federal Reserve notes thus applied for and issued. The collateral security thus offered shall be notes, drafts, bills of exchange, or acceptances. They're taking the original promissory note where you promised to pay for your 2022 Subaru, and they're going to the Federal Reserve discount window and they're writing what's called an application for notes as per 12 USC 412, and they're swapping or collateralizing that original promissory note for Federal Reserve notes and then feeding you back your own money. You funded the loan. Another area you can see this is you ask yourself, okay, I want to open up a bank and I want to start my own credit union and I want to get Federal Reserve window access so I can print endless money forever for no cost. No problem. The way that you would do that is by filling out an OC10 agreement. The OC10 agreement is the agreement operating circular 10 agreement PDF. I imagine that'd probably work. Here we go.
You can
This
actually do that?
This is the agreement that you would fill out. And there's two sections at the end of this agreement. One is for people who are in the United States, one is for people who are outside of the United States. So you would actually fill out the one for somebody who's outside of the United States. And I want to say, let me just pull one other thing up here. Let me go to credit union. We go to 12 USC 1753. We find out some very fascinating information. Any 7 or more natural persons who desire to form a federal credit union shall each subscribe either individually or collectively before some official competent to administer oaths, an organization certificate in duplicate. So if you have 7 people and you would like to open up a federal credit union, you can do so. And then boom, you fill out the OC-10 operating circular. Once you fill out the OC-10 agreement and you attach all the documentation and you are approved, you're going to go on this requests for access. It's going to say pending. Once you're approved, boom, you can now use what's called FedWire. FedWire. This is I don't know a lot about FedWire. FedWire is where you're going to be swapping these instruments for Federal Reserve notes.
So basically, if somebody gets a loan, you go and you say, give me the money.
You can have anyone you want sign a promissory note for literally fucking anything, a brand new Boeing 7047 jet.
Are you kidding?
And you can go to the window, you can swap it out for Federal Reserve notes. Now people always ask me, well, Brandon, if they're going to the Federal Reserve discount window to get Federal Reserve notes and they use the original note as collateral security, don't they have to pay back the original loan to the Federal Reserve? That was the final piece of the puzzle that I had to figure out. The answer to that question is no, because when they go to the window, these endorsements that you're seeing here on this page, these are all window endorsements. They use without recourse. They never have to pay back the Federal Reserve even one fucking penny. It's free fucking money without recourse. And you say to yourself, oh, Brandon, why are they accepting it without recourse? UCC 3-603. The way that they've set it up is that when you look at UCC 3-603 subsection B, if tender of payment of an obligation to pay an instrument is made to the person entitled to enforce the instrument and the tender is refused, there is discharge to the amount of the tender. So the way this game is played is as long as you play the game correctly and you know the various terms and you play the game, they can't deny an endorsement without recourse. They'll always accept it.
I wonder if that's the case in Canada. I would love to go and try this with my mortgage.
So the banks go to the window and they say without recourse. In the window, they can't say no because of 3-603 subsection B. So they say yes. So they give the guy the Federal Reserve notes. They take the collateral security, which is the original note, and the bank never has to repay the loan. It's free money. So if they get $72K back from the window, they give the dealership $60K for your car, they pocket $12K, and then now you're still paying the institution on the full $72K. What do? They sell that note to their buddies, or they resell it, or they secondary market it, or whatever, and then they get a bunch of other money within a month or two, and then they're out, and then they're on to the next one. And the amount of work they put into swapping those instruments is probably 15, 20, 25 minutes worth of work, if not even less. Could be 5. Hell, for all I know, it could be AI nowadays. And they made $70, $80, $90,000 every single time a car gets financed. Within 30 days, they're making 90 grand profit.
My God, I cannot believe this is happening. How long has this been happening for, Brandon?
Since 1933.
Jesus. So that's in the United States.
Yeah, in the United States. Yeah,
I'm sure probably elsewhere too.
It was sort of happening before then, but this is how the entire structure of the entire monetary system, A to Z, has been since 1933. So 1911 is when the Federal Reserve Act came in. So at that point in time, between 1911 and 1933, we had both money and negotiable instruments. So we had Federal Reserve notes, and we also had gold and silver coins still. It wasn't until 1933 when gold and silver coins were removed. And then from that point forward, we've only had negotiable instruments.
So they've been duping us for almost 100 years going on. 90 years for really. Are we able to go and get all the money back that they took from us
You don't
illegally?
need to. You don't need to, because when you start understanding how to properly endorse and tender, and when you understand how to negotiate instruments, you can go in and buy a brand new Boeing 747. When they deny you credit, you can sue them. You can force them to give you credit. When they slide the promissory note across from you, you make it without recourse. Pay to the order of yourself or the Boeing 747, and then you effectively just bought yourself a jet. You're going to put 90 grand in your pocket just for buying the goddamn thing, and the goddamn thing's free and clear. You can do it with a house. You
Oh,
can do it with land. You can do it with a plane. You could do it with a car. You could do it with anything you want. The system that we are in all countries that have a central banking system, it's fully socialized. So what's happening is every single time there's a transaction, it creates new currency. Because every single time you use your credit card, it's an unconditional promise to pay. You are unconditionally promising to pay. That unconditional promise to pay in itself is currency. It's a negotiable instrument. So everyone in the entire country, every single time they use their credit card, they are manufacturing currency and then failing to claim the value of that currency for themselves, thus having to pay twice.
oh my God. So here's
So
I mean,
everything is free. The way that the
yeah.
American financial system has been since 1933 is everything is paid for by the government. It's all obligations or other securities of the United States, HNUSC 8, and all you have to do is properly perform. Everything is free. Basically, what's happening is it's infinitely expanding and inflating the monetary supply, but at the same time, everything is free. That is the socialist system that we have had in the United States of America that no one's aware of since 1933.
Okay. Now, so I remember when I paid, not paid, I'm sorry, when I signed for my mortgage, I signed. The bank didn't sign.
Mhm.
So only I signed. I put my signature on a piece of paper. The bank didn't. They took the paperwork, it's with them. And now every single month, or rather every 2 weeks, they take they take money out of my bank account. So
Yeah.
is that a legal contract since they didn't sign and only I signed? But that's question number one. And question number two, everything that you said about endorsement, or rather endorsement, because that's how it's spelled, as we're moving towards everything just being on a computer rather than actual money in your hand, banknotes or these instruments that you refer to in the United States, does that continue to apply? And as we're moving towards even, let's say, uh, completely, what do they call that, CBDC? So it's not going to be sort of tangible paper money anymore. It's just going to be digital currency.
It's the same thing.
All
It's an
these laws
unconditional
will
promise to
continue.
pay. Yeah.
Okay, so these will continue to apply. Okay, that's really good. And people don't have to worry because everybody's freaking out over the fact that we're moving to digital.
Well, I'm not so sure we're moving to digital, but I mean, who knows? Maybe.
Okay. But okay, so what about when you do these kind of transactions with banks or these institutions, financial institutions, where you sign on paper that you're taking on the loan, the credit card, the mortgage, they don't sign. And why don't they sign?
So I don't know about all that, but I can tell you that when you start to properly perform on your instruments, you are going to I will show you. You're going to experience. They're going to either play very very stupid, they're going to lose magically everything you send them, or they're going to just flat out say we don't accept that kind of payment. This is what
Okay.
happens pretty much all the time. And what you're gonna have to do in order to force them to follow the law, you're going to have to start getting into litigation, which is why I teach that and why I teach it in propria or in form of pauperis and all that kind of stuff, right? So if we go into my American Express case, if I go back to a screen share and we do a little exploration through my American Express case, it's a lot to go through, but
Oh, wow. Yes.
it's a good thing though. So court listener. So when you go on Pacer, so this is the actual federal government's website. This is how you can get into anything, right? It costs 10 cents per page to download anything you want. You can go through the entire, you could find some court case, every court case you've ever heard of. You could go and find serial murderers. You could do anything you want. You can go in here and type in any name, any case number. You can do online research. What was the case number for John Wayne Gacy? And you could go in here and type it in, and it'll come right up, and you can see every single docket item. It's 10 cents per page to download any docket item. Now, there's this other thing called recap, which is Pacer spelled backwards. You can even see it when you scroll down over the recap
Yes.
archive. It has the little shadow that comes down and says Pacer backwards.
That's right.
So, Court Listener or the Free Law Project or recap, what happens is that if you have this little recap extension installed in your little thingy, on Chrome, whenever you upload a document into a case or whenever you download a document into a case, it now goes into recap, which is now makes it available for anyone to download for free without having to get into Pacer, without having to pay 10 cents per page. So it becomes
Excellent.
effectively crowdsourced at that point, or however you want to say it, right? So this is the American Express case, which is a very popular case. A lot of people have been reading it. So
Yep.
every single filing all the way down is all available in recap. You don't even need to go into Pacer and pay for it. I'm always trying to figure out how to avoid people having to pay for things, obviously, right? So if we go down to, if we go down to some of my stuff later on, there is here we go. This is a good one to look at. So this is a piece of evidence that I submitted into the court way later in the case, right? This is actually in the American Express card member agreement, which I do recommend everyone reads. By the time you get done with my course, reading a credit card member agreement will be child's play for you.
Oh, I hope
And it'll
so.
be very shocking when you read it. It's not, most card member agreements are shockingly not that complicated to read. On a scale from 1 to 10, most card member agreements are like a 2 out of 10 in terms of how legalese and how difficult they are to read, right? But look at this. Look at this section right here. This is right in the American Express a card member agreement. Promise to pay.
All charges, including charges you make, even if you do not present your card
Yeah,
or
but
sign for
yeah,
the
but what is the
transaction.
definition of a negotiable instrument? You should see 3-104. 3-104. A negotiable instrument means an unconditional promise or order to pay. And they have it right in the motherfucking thing. Promise to pay. What are they saying? They're saying every single time you transact anything with this credit card, you are producing a negotiable instrument which has the same value as cash. Promise to pay. Promise to pay. Unconditional promise to pay. You are not conditionally promising to pay. You're not saying, oh, I'll pay this coffee with my credit card, maybe. You're saying, I will pay later for this coffee that I am trying to pay for now. You are, the receipt that you get from a credit card transaction is basically evidence that a negotiable instrument was created.
You know, this is what people like. This is because when you present yourself in court, it's intimidating because they speak at you with legalese and you're like, oh, I don't know how this works. And of
And
course,
what's crazy is what I'm teaching you in this one show. I'm telling you, you don't believe me now because you think they've got their big wooden desks and their black robes and their fucking briefcases and their suits. Just from this show alone, you can fucking eat. And when I say eat, I mean lick the muscle off the bones of literally any fucking attorney you're going to meet.
that is so empowering. I love it so much.
I mean, attorneys are like lunch boxes. You never know what's inside, and it's always delicious.
You know, I was talking to a friend the other day and I said, how funny is it that when you go to courts, I mean, not that I go on a regular basis, but I have, and even when you see in shows, They dress up as if it's Halloween. They have these robes,
Hmm.
which is, I don't understand. I can't to this day understand why they dress up like that, as if they're putting on a theatrical production. They have certain words that have to be said in a certain order, and you have to address somebody as your honor or counselor for these lawyers, attorneys at law, and whatnot. I'm like, what is the purpose of all that? Like, why does it have to be unfolding in that manner? Like, what meaning is there behind all of that? For what purpose?
Well, what's funny is when you know how the game is played, it's the greatest place in the world because everyone tells you to go fuck yourself. Everyone ignores you. Everyone you could send out a thousand endorsed instruments right now tomorrow to all your different credit card agencies, all your different this, they're all gonna lose it or say we don't accept this kind of payment. Certain organizations will just close all your accounts. They don't even
Yep.
want to talk to you and you ask yourself, now what? So they won't talk to you and they think you're crazy and they make fun of you and they say stupid shit and they think you're crazy and they call you a sovereign citizen. They do all this goofy shit until you sue them. Now what? Now what are you going to do, motherfucker? Now you have to talk about this. Now we
Hmm.
have to have a conversation about this. And every time they open their stupid fucking mouth, I smash it shut and break all their teeth out. It's fucking amazing. It's the greatest. I always tell everybody. I say motorcycles is my number one love, and sex and litigation are always fighting for second place. Because I'm telling you, when you get into this and you understand it and you see how it is, and it is definitely a masculine energy. So I always say the feminine version of litigation is diplomatic relations. Like
Okay.
I feel like if you want to step into your feminine, it'd be diplomatic relations. If you want to step into your masculine, it'd be litigation. I do
Okay.
both. I enjoy them both very, very much. So I do both, right? But uh you have to be able to turn that off too. Like if you're a woman and you want to get into litigation, I'll tell you what, most of the female attorneys that I've dealt with, they're worse than men. Way worse than men.
Really?
They're like animals. They're like
What?
barbarians. It's pretty awful, actually.
Wow.
But who knows? When they step away from that and they go home at night, they might be little teddy bears. I don't know their personal life. I'm just saying, like, I've had the experience of dealing with a lot of female attorneys recently, and God, they're fucking they make the men. I guarantee you, they just eat these men up like they're just fucking snacks. There's no fucking way. They're
Ouch.
so aggressive and so intimidating, and not to me. I think they're hilarious. They're like little Pomeranians that are really fluffy and they're just like freaking out. I'm just like, oh, you cute little bastard. Uh, you
Oh
know,
my God.
but the thing is that I don't women feel left out. They're like, I don't want to get into litigation, blah, blah, blah. Well, first off, it's very empowering, if you want to step into that masculine. Plus, just because you step into the masculine doesn't mean you're going to lose yourself or lose your femininity. It's just, uh it's just a part of your life. It doesn't become your whole life necessarily, right? So like diplomatic relations is very feminine, right? And diplomatic relations is a whole massive technology. There's a whole lot of information there that I teach in the course. You saw a lot of that in video number one. We haven't covered a lot of that in this show, but I covered diplomatic immunity, the definition of a nation. We start getting into
Yes.
foreign governments. All that's in the course as well. That's the feminine side of all of this. And then litigation is the barbarian warrior smashing in the windows, burning the place to the ground, but only because they're not following the law. That's the only reason why we have to do that.
Mm.
The reason why I have to smash down the front gate and burn the entire fucking village to the ground is because they're just not following the law. That's the only reason why I have to do it.
Everybody needs someone like you so that like we could just send you out there to do that kind of work. Because like, for example, I want to, obviously I'm going to send, without recourse, but for sure, just what you said, they're probably going to come back and be like, yeah, we're not going to accept that kind of payment. We're going to court. And of course, you're going to have to
Well,
go and
they won't
litigate.
sue you. What they do is they say we don't accept that kind of payment, and then they just kind of write you off. They just kind of ignore you. You're not gonna from all the people I've talked to and all the experiences I've seen. As soon as they know that you kind of know how to perform on a negotiable instrument, now they're not going to sue you anymore. I've seen almost no one get sued Now, will they close your accounts? Will they turn off your card? Will they say that they don't accept that kind of payment? Will they restrict your use so you can't do ACH payments and now you have to go into an actual physical location and pay with a check or whatnot? I've seen those kind of things pretty
Okay.
commonly. But the chances of them coming after you once you start performing differently on a negotiable instrument is very low. What I recommend and teach is once they say no, now you're going after them.
Mm.
So I have tens of thousands of people. I'm trying to get them all ready for war. They're all sending stuff in, getting a denial, and then I'm like, it's time to charge the front gates. So we're going after them and making them defendants, and we're the plaintiffs. And so all my cases are all me, the plaintiff, them defendants. I've never been sued.
It's interesting.
I've literally begged them, I like on many videos, including even in the 2.0 series. I'm like, please, for the love of God, please fucking sue me. And
Oh my
they
God,
won't
Brandon.
do it. They literally won't do it. The reason why they won't do it is because you can counterclaim. And that's something I teach you in the course too. Whenever anybody sues you, and that's one thing very unique about what I'm doing, I'm teaching everyone don't ever get a case dismissed. That's so fucking dumb, pathetic. What a waste of time. If anyone sues you, what you're going to do is you're going to figure out the maximum amount of causes of action that you can turn around and countersue them for, and you're going to countersue them, and the countersuit is going to be 100 times worse than
Than
whatever
the
they come at you.
original.
Oh, it's like so the way that causes of action work is they have to respond to and defend themselves on every single cause of action. If you have
Ouch.
17 causes of action and you can get just one to hook, you can move the case forward into what's called discovery and start forcing them to produce documents, and you can move the case forward. If you have 17 bullets and if you just hit one, all you got to do is hit one and you can move the case forward. So what we do is we do a counterclaim and we build out the counterclaim with 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 causes of action. Nothing frivolous. I always tell them, don't just put stupid shit on there. Like, really figure it out. Like, how can I get 20 causes of action, right? And then they sue you for $3,000 and just one cause of action, and you counterclaim and just fucking bulldoze them. You hit them with like a 50 megaton missile, and you hit them with 20 causes of action, and they're like, holy shit. You know what I mean? So that's what I teach. I teach instant attack. Instant, instant, instant. You want to hit them with everything you've got immediately. You want to, if you have 5,000 missiles, as soon as you get sued, as soon as you're served, all 5,000 are getting sent out. That's how I teach it. And
Yes.
that is unique. That is very unique to what I teach and what I do. That is not everything you find online is how to get the case dismissed.
Yeah.
If all you're doing is trying to dismiss the case, that's the stupidest fucking thing in the world. What's stopping the bully from coming back in 2 weeks? What's stopping this bully? Everything is public. You can go on Pacer and type your name in and see, oh, all he was trying to do is just trying to get the case dismissed. What a loser. When you turn around and you hit him with everything you've got immediately, and you've got your fucking war paint on, and you're like kamikaze flying through the air with like a ripped shirt, and you look like Bruce Willis in Die Hard, everyone else sees that and they go, oh no, we're not going anywhere near this guy. And then all of a sudden, you never get sued again.
That's probably why they don't want to sue you, because they're probably like super intimidated. They know you know your shit. And if you
Exactly.
were to pull out all of your like your biggest guns,
I would hit him, dude. I'd hit him so hard. I'd have 20 causes of action.
yeah, they know that they would get
It'd be
annihilated.
it'd be a 45-page complaint.
Oh, oh my God, you have
And
given us so much
everything they
time.
say, so the way it works in litigation is whoever the originating party is, it's super cool. So the originating party, so let's say think of a football field, and then here's the court case, and then there's these things called motions, right? You've heard this, but you don't really understand what it means. Motion just means here's it's the 10-yard line, 20-yard line, 30-yard line, 40-yard line, and there's like certain things that have to happen before you can move to the next thing. Motion means either to do something or to move the case to the next yard line.
Mm.
A motion to add a defendant, a motion to give me some time. I need a month to do a little bit of research, or motion to move the case into discovery, which would be to go to like the 50-yard line. Let's go to the 50-yard line now, right? So whoever creates the complaint or the motions is the person who's always in more control. And the reason why is because the defendant, if you're creating something and you issue something, the defendant gets to respond once, and then the originating party gets to respond to the response. So you get to fire a bullet, they get to fire a bullet, and then you get to fire a second bullet at what they fired at you. So you always want to be the one on the offensive. Whoever's on the offensive is always in the better position. You get 2 bullets, they get 1.
Yes.
So when you counterclaim and you're the one motioning, just pounding, you're getting 2 swings of your bat and they get 1 every single time. So you just want to pound the shit out of them the whole time. And if you do that, it makes it very difficult. Being on the defense is difficult. It's structurally difficult. Like people who are like, oh, I just want to dismiss the case. You are at a disadvantage. Just structurally, every bullet you shoot, they get 2 bullets. But when you turn around and you fucking go at them like a madman, and you're creating motions and you're doing a counterclaim and you're pounding, you get to, now they're on the defensive, you get 2 bullets to their 1.
So they're probably incentivized to try to dismiss the case as quickly as possible.
No, I mean the court is basically just a referee. The judge is just a referee. Whoever plays the games and knows the rules, typically, I've had some experiences that aren't this way, but I've had some that are. And I think that I think it's a fraternal thing. The way that I've experienced the court systems, I've been in the court systems for about 9 months. When you first go in there, they're all like, oh yeah, let's see. And they haze you and stuff.
Oh.
It seems like, and they just make it tough and they challenge the shit out of you and they test you. And I this is just kind of like my assumption, kind of just being in the court system for 8 months, especially when you're pro se, they really test you. And once you passed the hazing phase, the rush at Phi Sigma Kappa, it seems like now they're easing up quite a lot on me on some of the newer cases. So I don't know. I think it's sort of a little bit fraternal. I could be wrong, but that's just kind of what I'm picking up from the situation.
I'm very curious to see how this would unfold in Canada. I want to be the Canadian version of you.
It's a lot of fun.
I know it is. You have me so excited, especially after what you've said, because I know that the way that I've interpreted law up until now, I know that it's been very intimidating, especially in courts, that you have all of these people who are super serious and somber, and they're very aggressive, and they're there to enforce and enforce.
I'm telling you, the first thing you're going to realize is that they literally don't have a clue. And I mean, the biggest problem that I run into now is that I can't tell if they're just faking not understanding anything or if they actually really don't. And this is like a real issue that I'm running into. Like I say UCC 3-109 and they're up there like, I'm a brand new guy. My fucking website is onestupidfuck.com. I'm 38 years old, dressing up in fucking outfits. You really think a federal judge who's been like federal Judge Fitzgerald in the MX case, you really think he wants to look like a fucking idiot? He's been an assistant judge or in the federal system since like 86.
Oh.
And I'm brand new. And I'm just like, woo, in my onesie and my fucking mankini, onestupidfuck.com retard, waltzing in there, going to make him look like an idiot. That's not going to happen. So I've experienced situations where it's like you can read my case. He says like, while the plaintiff's complaint is largely unintelligible. And it's like, well, wait a second. Do you really not understand it? Or do you understand it and you're confused and you understand that you're confused, but you'll never, ever, ever, ever admit that for some brand new piece of shit who's one stupid fuck on the internet who literally just started getting into the court system. You see, it's like, where is the ego here? Like that's not something that I necessarily was planning for when I started doing this. I was optimistic, and I guess I was what would you call it? When someone is like so optimistic that they're just almost a disconnected, aloof. What do you? I don't know what the word. Overly optimistic, almost like idealist. Like
Hmm.
I thought like, all right, I'm gonna go in here and it's gonna be like, here's the rules. Do you follow the rules? This is not part of the rules, and we're gonna talk about things, and then we're gonna move forward. And that's not anywhere close to what. But it's okay. It's just like, all right, maybe I just need to keep pushing and show them that I'm not just some dumbass who's going to fall off the wagon and then go on the internet and complain about Judge Fitzgerald for the rest of my life, like most people do. But I'm going to actually just keep my cool and keep communicating and keep pressing and go to appeals and go to the Supreme Court and just keep repeating my information over and over and over and over and over forever until I get a result. I don't. To me, there's no other options. I don't think there is any other options. I mean, what else are you going to do?
That's why I asked you earlier, because I don't know whether these people, just like you said, are they faking it? Do they know and they're just keeping it from the rest of us? Or are they also, have they just been duped by the system? They went through their studies in the legal system and they were told that this is what happens, much like what I think about doctors. They were told just go and tell them to take pharmaceuticals and that's going to heal them. Well, that's not really how it works, but there are some of them who really believe that and they push it onto people. And that's probably what lawyers do. They come to the bar or they come to the courts and they try to push all of these things that to them are real. And the
No,
rest
it's
of
the
us are supposed
opposite.
to just follow through.
No, it's the opposite. Like if you try to take any of this negotiable instrument stuff to any attorney, they won't touch it.
Because they know.
No, because they're officers of the court. So if the court says we don't want you talking about this,
Ah,
shut it down now, or Mr. License, Mr. Bar Card's going to go bye bye, they'll just drop the case.
okay.
Their attorneys at law are on a leash,
Oh,
and
that's a good way of putting it.
that's why being pro se is so powerful because you can bring any claim, and there's nothing they can do to undermine that claim.
Oh, if that's not the most empowering thing I've ever heard, I don't know
Plus,
what
as a pro
is.
se litigant, when you have an attorney at law, the other attorney at law on the other side calls your attorney at law, who knows what they're talking about. I'll give you, if you fucking drop this, we're willing to pay you, Mr. Attorney at Law, $50,000 to just fumble this case on purpose and get it thrown out.
Wow.
You don't know what the fuck they're talking about. As a pro
Jeez.
se litigant, guess who's the only motherfucking person they get to call on the phone?
You.
You got it.
That's right.
So it terrifies these people. It absolutely terrifies them when they see a pro se litigant.
That's
Well,
so
I take that
amazing.
back. At first, they're laughing hysterically and they're ready to play and poke at this like broken plaything that they know they can probably scare off or get derailed in about 5 seconds, which most of the time they can. They get mean and ugly. They threaten things. They threaten things with a very low key, with a smile on their face. They'll say anything. They'll do anything just to kind of throw you off, and hopefully you'll dismiss the case or run away or fumble or get scared or whatever. Once you get past that part, the intimidation and the lies and the bullshit, they start getting nervous
Okay.
because now they're really fucked. Now, so the beginning is sort of like intimidation and procedure. The beginning is like bullshit procedure and like this local rule, you didn't follow this local rule, and like we're gonna threaten you, and like for these things called sanctions, which is like hilarious. It's like where the court makes you pay fees for bringing frivolous lawsuits and blah blah blah. All that's all on the front end. Once you get past that, now we're actually talking about the actual case and the actual uniform commercial code and negotiable instruments. They know if you can get the ball down the field that far, oh man, they are so fucked. It's unbelievable.
Because they know they're going to lose the game.
They're so fucked. I mean, they are so they might laugh and joke and snort with their cigars at the beginning. And honestly, the truth is 85-90% of pro se litigants do fail at the beginning.
Of course.
Massive intimidation, threats, sanctions, ridicule. I went through it. I went through it on the Amex case, and I went through it on some of the other cases. But once you can get past that, they're in serious fucking trouble.
Okay. So there you have it, people. You do have to do this course, and it's free. Brandon, I'm so grateful. I want to speak for the collective when I say thank you so much for offering this for free. That is
Thank you.
so generous of you.
Thank you.
I mean, the amount of stuff you would learn just based on what we discussed in this show tonight, to be able to not have to pay your mortgage, hundreds of thousands of dollars, your credit card bills, thousands of dollars, any other bills, medical bills, if you even feel like you have to pay them, even though you did say that you don't have to be able to, you know, operate within your state or wherever you're from, with what you said about the driver's license, and I would love to have you back to talk about sovereign versus citizen and how people identify themselves as. But I do want to figure out, so I'm going to do your course and I want to try to figure out how this applies to Canada. I appreciate the fact that you said that a lot of these uh, legal structures were sort of created in the same way, especially where money is concerned, because if a country has a central banking system, they probably structured the whole thing in the same manner. They just use different terminology or
Correct.
different words to identify certain things. So you have to do that. I'm definitely going to go to the law library to get that information that you looked up.
I've had
Um,
many, many, many Canadians tell me that they've done some research and they found that Canada is a corporation located in the District of Columbia. It's the same thing.
are you kidding?
Dead serious.
No way. Because
I've
I
had like
thought that it
15, 20 Canadians tell me that.
I'll tell you. So I'm definitely going to look that up because so I used to work for the government once upon a time. And I had to pledge allegiance to the Queen because she was alive at the time. Of course, she died. But I always thought that we're under the crown and we have a prime minister, you guys have a president. So we were even politically under the different structure and we're part of the Commonwealth. So we have the UK, Canada, and Australia. And I thought that we have a completely different structure altogether, that the United States is completely separate and it operates differently and in a different manner. But I'm not surprised that we're under the same corporation,
Yeah.
probably the umbrella corporation, and then we are one of the subsidiaries.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Oh my God, I told you guys this is going to be the show of all shows and it's going to blow your mind. And this is like the best guest I've ever had on my show.
Oh,
Brandon,
thank
you
you.
are the man.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Really
No,
appreciate it.
thank you. You are amazing. Thank you so much. Not only for everything that you just shared so generously for 3 hours, but for your course, for everything that you are, for how hard you work to, I guess, free us all from the enslavement, especially the financial enslavement and otherwise. I look forward to the show. Last question, and of course, I want you to tell everybody where they can find you online. Of course, I follow you on Instagram. I love all your stuff, and onestupidfuck.com. And you also have I think you're on different platforms, right?
Yeah, I'm on I don't like
X.
TikTok very much, but I'm on there. I try not to use it by all costs. Really dislike the platform.
Yeah, me too.
I'm on Instagram, I'm
Yep.
on Facebook, and I'm on X,
Yep.
and I also don't really like or use LinkedIn, but I have it.
Okay. Yes, that's very LinkedIn deplatformed me back in 2020 when I was speaking out against the bullshit they presented to us as COVID. Um, okay. So last question. Do you think that the structure of all the crap that they have out there, so the system that's in place right now, some people call it a matrix, do you think it's going to collapse?
No.
No. So this is going to be status quo for the rest of whatever we
For
know.
example, when everyone learns the financial system, there's going to be two different possibilities. Possibility number one is we go back to these bad boys, gold and silver coins. This is the
Mm,
constitutional money. This is actually called, so you have a lawful money and you have legal tender. If you look on your Federal Reserve notes, they are not lawful money. They are legal tender, totally different.
yep.
One is a negotiable instrument. The other one is gold or silver coin, right? So if we go back to gold and silver coins, what's going to happen is that the buying power of the gold and silver coin is going to go up by like some astronomical amount. 99% of all of our dollars are basically just inflationary.
Yep.
So you could get, people are always shocked when they see like 1971 advertisement for groceries or a 1971 advertisement for a new house, payments of $43. The entire house is $8,700, right? So that's nothing compared to what we would have if it was gold and silver coins. If it was gold and silver coins, I mean, we're talking you could be flipping burgers at Burger King 25 hours a week. You could probably have a nice 2-story house, 4 kids, 3 brand new cars, vacations 4, 5, 6 times a year,
Wow.
and the wife wouldn't even work. And that's just
Wow.
fucking burgers. I'm telling
Jesus.
you. That's how much buying power gold and silver coins would have, right? And I think it's very American. American people enjoy working and exchanging. So I think that's probably the more likely of the two scenarios. Scenario number two is that we start actually just operating under the law and we just operate under a socialist system and we endorse all of our instruments and then everything is free and money has no significance. Basically, there is no cost for anything anymore. You just walk in, whatever you want. You tap your credit card, you endorse the instrument, and you walk out. And the amount of money or the amount that things cost, it becomes totally irrelevant to the transaction.
Yeah, but
Those are the
people would
those are
have.
the and then the third possible situation is that we have a world where both of those worlds are operating at the same time, intermingled. Meaning a lot of people are like, fuck that. We don't want to have anything to do with that socialist bullshit. We're going to do gold and silver coins. Fuck you. And then on the other side, you have people who maybe can't work or don't want to work, and that becomes like the new welfare system, essentially. But it's not really a
Oh,
welfare system. It's just the law. It's not a special thing. It's just the law, basically, right? So I think we're going to have both for a while, and then at some point, we'll see. That's what I think is going to happen.
it's a great time to be alive. I've been
Yeah,
saying that since 2020 to just see this whole thing unfold right in front of our eyes.
yeah,
But
yeah. I'm
thank you
very
so
excited.
much, Brandon, for fighting. Not like, I mean, the amount of work that you do. Seriously, may all good things flow to you in avalanches because you are such an amazing human being. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for everything you've taught us tonight. And guys, seriously, go take advantage of 2.0. It's 1.0 on steroids and then some.
Oh yeah, it's like 100 times better than 1.0. Yeah.
And of course, give Brandon a follow. Go subscribe to his new newsletter, and his website is hilarious. Did you write all of that stuff?
Yeah, I wrote everything.
Man,
Yeah.
you're amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
Like there's nothing that Brandon does that will disappoint. So Brandon, thank you again. I would love to have you back. I will reach out again if you have the time and you want to do us the honor of coming back to discuss, citizen sovereign and all that stuff. Would love to have you back. But in the meantime, stay amazing and thank you for blessing us.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you on the next show.